Chapter 597. On the way back, Long Yu began to comprehend the ancient level martial arts technique, the Light of the Nine Serenities. However, Yu Hanxin's flying speed was simply too fast. It did not take her long to leave the territory of the Tianqin dynasty. As she had expected, Emperor Tianqin did not appear to stop her at all. Long Yu led the 200 people in the ancient Dragon Bone Tower back to the North Snow royal capital safely. Now, there was only one person whose safety was uncertain, and that was Man Xian. Man Xian had gone to the relic of the stormy demonic blade to train, but that was within the territory of the Tianqin dynasty. Not to mention the dangers within the relic, just how to leave the Tianqin dynasty after leaving the relic was a huge problem. However, Long Yu listened to Yu Hanxin and did not choose to help. Everyone had their own path of martial arts, and Man Xian had to walk his own path. The next day, Long Yu appeared in the North Snow royal capital, arriving at a mansion that Yu Hanxin had specially arranged for the people of Azura County. In addition, Yu Hanxin had also marked out a manor for Long Yu near the North Snow Ice Mountain, outside the North Snow royal capital, for Long Yu to make arrangements for his people in the ancient Dragon Bone Tower. Living in the ancient Dragon Bone Tower was ultimately not something that could last long, so Yu Hanxin made the decision to gift the Snow Manor to Long Yu. The Snow Manor had originally been owned by a cultivator of the secret plane of the Emperor's Path. However, this cultivator had died outside the North Snow dynasty a while ago, so the manor naturally returned to Yu Hanxin's possession. At this point, Long Yu and the others had two places to stay in the North Snow dynasty. One of them was the Azura Mansion in the North Snow royal capital, which was mainly managed by Shu Chan. The second one was the Ice and Snow Manor that Long Yu had obtained. However, after Long Yu moved in, he changed the name of the manor to the Heavenly Mandate Manor to commemorate the Heavenly Mandate continent. The huge Dragon Bone Tower was placed in the manor, and everyone who had been taken in by Long Yu also came out of the Dragon Bone Tower and began to settle down in the Heavenly Mandate Manor. Since it was bestowed by Yu Hanxin, few people in the entire North Snow dynasty would come looking for trouble with the Heavenly Mandate Manor. Everyone could finally develop with peace of mind. Although most of the people from the Azura County knew each other, they were still clearly divided into two groups. The main dividing line was their residences. There was still a clear estrangement between the two parties who lived in the Heavenly Mandate Manor and the Azura Manor. For most of the genius martial arts practitioners of the Azura County in the Azura Manor, the people of the Heavenly Mandate Manor were too weak. Most of them only had cultivation in the celestial being's secret realm, and they had not even reached the heaven realm. They were only in the human realm. For the martial arts practitioners of the Azura County, they were simply too weak. It was worth noting that most of the martial arts practitioners in the Azura Mansion in the North Snow royal capital were young geniuses from all over the Azura County. Every one of them had stepped into the secret realm of divinity at a very young age. Now, if they were not in the divine realm, they were at least in the divine realm. How could they look up to the martial arts practitioners of the celestial being's secret realm? However, none of the people that Long Yu brought out from the Heavenly Mandate Island were in the secret realm of divinity. Even Long Yu himself had only just stepped into the secret realm of divinity. After Long Yu returned and was given the Heavenly Mandate Manor, Feng Haofeng and Feng Yusen, who were originally living in the Azura Manor, immediately moved to the Heavenly Mandate Manor and rebuilt the Feng family there. In addition, Long Yu and Yu Hanxin also called out Mo Shanjian, Mo Fengming, and Ling Longyu from the Mo family. Originally, these three people had entered Yu Hanxin's inner world. However, since they were Long Yu's friends, Yu Hanxin would not keep them in her inner world. In the Heavenly Mandate Manor, the Feng family was naturally the most powerful. In addition, there was also the royal Chu family. However, only Chu Huang and Chu Xian were left. In addition to the three people from the Mo family, the Ice sect, and the Zhentian clan were left. These 5 forces were all the people from the Tang Empire who had escaped from the Heavenly Mandate Island. In addition to these people, Long Yu also brought out hundreds of beautiful disciples from the Glazed Moon Palace. Each of them was as beautiful as flowers, and their cultivation talents were not bad. Each of them had already reached the secret realm of divinity. They also formed their own faction in the Heavenly Mandate Manor, led by the 1st Palace Lord Hong Yu, the 3rd Palace Lord Qi Yun, and the 4th Palace Lord Zi Ling Yilun, Feng Yao, Lu Yuan, and the others who had passed the Azura selection on the Heavenly Mandate continent naturally returned to the Heavenly Mandate Manor. For them, the closest person was still Long Yu, not the Princess Shu Chan. Although the current relationship between Long Yu and Shu Chan was very good, the two still had to be considered separately. Moreover, in the Heavenly Mandate Manor, Yan Huan, Mo Feng, Feng Yao, and Lu Yuan had many old friends. Whether it was about cultivation or life, they could gather together to discuss, and it was not as restrained as in the Azura Manor. In this way, there were about 200 people in the entire Heavenly Mandate Manor. Compared to the entire scope of the manor, it was still very small. Long Yu asked the 1st Palace Lord Hong Yu to manage the daily operations of the entire manor, and this mature and beautiful woman readily agreed. The Heavenly Mandate Manor had a radius of 100 miles, and many of the former owners' properties still remained, such as the herb garden, underground mines, ancient forests, alchemy rooms, weapon refining platforms, and so on. These things all needed to be taken care of, and it was left to the 1st Palace Lord and the many female cultivators of the Glazed Moon Palace. At the edge of the manor, there had always been a defense matrix. As long as Qi was inserted into the core of the matrix in the center of the manor, the defense matrix could be activated, and all martial arts cultivators who did not leave a mark in the manor would be bombarded by the matrix. When they moved into the manor, Long Yu and everyone else left their soul marks in the core of the matrix in the center of the manor. This would not cause them any harm, but it could allow the defense matrix of the entire manor to recognize them as one of their own. If they encountered an intruder, even a cultivator from the secret plane of the Emperor's Path would not be able to escape safely. After settling down in the Heavenly Mandate Manor, the thing that made everyone feel the safest was undoubtedly the defense matrix. Of course, in addition to this, there was also the ancient Dragon Bone Tower. It should be known that the ancient Dragon Bone Tower was also a super powerful weapon that could withstand the attack of a cultivator from the secret plane of the Emperor's Path. In just a few days, all the affairs in the manor were managed in an orderly manner by the 1st Palace Lord Hong Yu. Long Yu calmly comprehended and cultivated the Light of Nine secluded in his room, but he did not grasp the gist of it for a few days. It was evident that the difficulty of this ancient martial arts technique was quite high. If it were an ordinary martial arts cultivator, it would be impossible for them to successfully comprehend it. Even Long Yu could only rely on the 20% of the divine script of Nine secluded that he had comprehended on his own to make some progress. If he wanted to completely comprehend the martial arts technique of the Light of Nine secluded, even if it was only at the beginner level, it would probably take several months. Long Yu was not in a hurry. It just so happened that on this day, the young princess, Shu Chan, rushed to the Heavenly Mandate Manor from the Azura Mansion and met Long Yu. "You mean to say that you want to go out and train with me?" Long Yu could not help but be surprised when he heard what the young princess, Shu Chan, said. "That's right, Long Yu. Now that you have entered the secret realm of divine power, and I heard that you have killed Qi Jiwu, who was in the 4 paths of divine power, your strength is no less than mine." Shu Chan said with a smile, "With our martial arts realm, it is too dangerous to go out and train in the North Snow Dynasty. But if we go together, it will be much easier to deal with any situation. Compared to the princess, my strength is still far inferior. However, as the princess said, staying here to meditate will not result in any major breakthroughs." Long Yu thought for a moment, then nodded and said, "In that case, let's go out and train together." Do you have any suggestions about the location of the training? Shu Chan raised her head and asked Long Yu. Since the princess came to me, I guess you already have a plan. Long Yu squinted and said, You are so smart. Shu Chan snorted and said, I want to go back to the border of the Tianqin dynasty and look for traces of my father. Even if he died in the hands of the Tianqin emperor, there must be some traces. Long Yu was silent when he heard this, then nodded and said, Then let's go to the border of the Tianqin dynasty. You are not afraid that the Tianqin emperor will personally avenge his son? Shu Chan was a little surprised and said, If we meet the Tianqin emperor, we will die without a burial place. I thought that with your character, you would not agree to go back to the Tianqin dynasty. I have asked around before. Long Yu shook his head and said with a serious expression, The manors near the North Snow Imperial City can only be awarded to cultivators who have reached the secret realm of the Emperor Path. Now that there is no cultivator from the secret realm of the Emperor Path in my heavenly mandate manor, I am afraid we will encounter a lot of trouble. Although there are defensive matrices in the manor and other martial arts cultivators do not dare to mess around, if the people in the manor go out to train, I am afraid they will be suppressed by others. Therefore, Long Yu wanted to find a cultivator from the secret realm of the Emperor Path to come back to the heavenly mandate manor. If the Azura King and the Dark Shadow King were not dead, it would be very easy. Of course, in the face of the terrifying and murderous Tianqin Emperor, the possibility of the Azura King and the Dark Shadow King not dying was very small. If that is the case, when do we leave? Shu Chan heard Long Yu's words and was very happy. Just the two of us? Long Yu asked. If you want to bring your beauty, I don't mind. Anyway, I am the only one here. Shu Chan blinked and said. A row of black lines appeared on Long Yu's forehead. The beauty that the young commandery princess mentioned was naturally Lu Yuan. Lu Yuan had obtained the 9 Revolutions spiritual sword, a desolate level weapon. It was difficult for her to be compatible with it, so she came to talk to Long Yu every day. It turned out that even Shu Chan knew about this. I won't bring her. Her martial arts realm is too low. If we encounter any danger and I can't take care of her, it will be troublesome. Long Yu shook his head. He had never thought of bringing Lu Yuan along when he went out to train. He was not afraid that Lu Yuan would be a burden to him, but he did not want any accidents to happen to Lu Yuan. Why are you so shy? With your talent, you will eventually have more than one beautiful partner. I have long seen that. Shu Chan giggled and turned to leave. Remember, I will come to find you tomorrow morning. Let's go directly. Chapter 598. Long Yu did not prepare too many things. Before he left, he went to the Azura Ancient Palace and took out many Earth-level and Heaven-level elixirs, as well as some Earth-level and Heaven-level weapons. He wanted to give them to the people in the heavenly mandate manor. However, Hong Yu, the palace lord, said that if he just gave them away for free, no one would know that these things were not easy to obtain. He suggested a system similar to the Glaze Moon Palace's old system. That was, completing the manor's tasks would earn them points, which would then be used to reward the martial arts cultivators with what they needed. In other words, whether it was elixirs or weapons, they had to be obtained through hard work. Long Yu naturally agreed with this suggestion, and let Hong Yu handle it himself. After all, in the heavenly mandate manor, Hong Yu's martial arts realm was the highest, reaching the heavenly tribulation realm. The others were not as intimidating as him. In addition, Hong Yu was originally the palace lord of the Glaze Moon Palace and was quite good at management. The number of martial arts cultivators in the heavenly mandate manor was less than half of what the Glaze Moon Palace originally had. After making the arrangements, Long Yu was ready to set off with Shu Chan. He did not intend to take the Dragon Bone Ancient Tower with him. Instead, he and Shu Chan would control the Azura Ancient Palace and head to the border of the North Snow Dynasty and the Tianqin Dynasty. Now that Emperor Tianqin was injured, Long Yu and Shu Chan decided to act as soon as possible. Early the next morning, Long Yu and Shu Chan entered the Azura Ancient Palace together. Both of them found the feeling of compatibility with the Azura Ancient Palace. This kind of compatibility was like resonating with the weapons. However, it was not completely the case. After all, the Azura Ancient Palace was compatible with two people. Individually, it would not reach the level of compatibility and resonance. Right now, neither of them could control the Azura Ancient Palace in battle. They could only use it as a flying and defensive tool. When they reached the borders of the North Snow Empire, in order to hide their tracks, they definitely could not fly the Azura Ancient Palace into the Tianqin Empire. They could only place it at the borders of the North Snow Empire. Not long after, Long Yu and Shu Chan arrived at a place called Ruoshui Commandery. The Ruoshui province was located in the southernmost region of the North Snow Empire. It was said that the princess was a devastatingly beautiful woman. Although she had only just stepped into the Emperor Path's secret plane, there was no one in the entire North Snow Empire who was willing to offend her. That was because such a beautiful woman had too many escorts, such as some King Path secret realm experts from the surrounding prefectures. Long Yu and Shu Chan drove the Azura Ancient Palace to a place near Ruoshui County and hid it in a snowy forest. They were not worried that the Azura Ancient Palace would be discovered by others. Even if others discovered the Azura Ancient Palace, they would not be able to enter it, let alone take it away. The two of them planned to rest in the Ruoshui Commandery for a night before setting off again the next day. However, they did not expect that their trip would actually alarm the Princess of Ruoshui. The two of them had just arrived at the Ruoshui Commandery. When they arrived in the sky above a city of ice and snow, they saw a white cloud drifting over. A graceful figure could be faintly seen in the white cloud. Although they could not see the figure's face clearly, they could already tell that it was a beautiful woman. The two of you have graced my Ruoshui Commandery with your presence. My Ruoshui Commandery is truly honored by your presence. The voice of the beautiful woman drifting over from the white cloud was as moving as an aureole. There was an inadvertent gentleness in her voice, causing her to give off a delicate and lovely feeling even before she appeared. The Azura Ancient Palace of Long Yu and Shu Chan must have alarmed the Princess of Ruoshui. After all, at that time, the Ice Bird Demon Monarch Yuhanshin had personally saved the people in the Azura Ancient Palace from the hands of Emperor Tianqin. At that time, the battlefield between Yuhanshin and Emperor Tianqin seemed to be in the Ruoshui Commandery. It was no wonder that the Princess of Ruoshui knew about the two of them. Hearing the soft voice of the Princess of Ruoshui, Long Yu's heart skipped a beat. The Tianqin dynasty and the North Snow dynasty each had about 40 to 50 commandery. The lords of each commandery were all cultivators of the Emperor's Path. However, it did not mean that there was only one cultivator of the Emperor's Path in each commandery. Take the Ruoshui Commandery for example. Although the current Princess of Ruoshui was a beautiful woman, in reality, the previous Princess of Ruoshui was still alive. She was just living in seclusion in the Ruoshui Ice City, and was also a cultivator of the Emperor's Path. Long Yu thought that if he could not find traces of the Azura King and the Dark Shadow King, he could go somewhere else and find a cultivator of the Emperor's Path who had a good character to go back to the Heavenly Mandate Manor to guard it. This way, it would be very beneficial for the development of the Heavenly Mandate Manor. However, he could not just pick this person randomly. Otherwise, the Heavenly Mandate Manor would very likely become the property of others. Long Yu would not do something like inviting a wolf into his house. As such, he had to be extremely cautious. I did not expect Princess Ruoshui to come and greet us in person. It seems that we are quite lucky. Shu Chan squinted her eyes and smiled. She did not show any feelings of flattery. After all, she was the Azura princess herself and her father was a prince. She did not have the same reverence for cultivators of the Emperor's path that ordinary martial arts cultivators did. You too, please come this way. I have already prepared a good courtyard in the Ruoshui Ice City for you to stay in. However, there is one thing that I would like to ask you too. The white cloud that the Princess of Ruoshui was hiding on quickly approached the two of them. Then, a tall and beautiful woman dressed in white appeared before the two of them. She had a pair of watery eyes that seemed to seduce one's soul and left a deep impression on anyone who saw her. Please speak, Princess Ruoshui. Shu-chan nodded. She would, of course, accept the enthusiasm of the other party. She was also too lazy to think about whether the other party had any schemes. If a cultivator of the Emperor's path wanted to deal with her and Long Yu, they could easily do so. Why would they need to resort to schemes? Looking at the expression of the Princess of Ruoshui, it seemed that she had something to ask. This was probably the main reason why the Princess of Ruoshui had come to greet the two of them. Not long ago, Lady Yu Hanxin and Emperor Tianqin had a great battle. It seems that Emperor Tianqin was injured. Is this true? When the Princess of Ruoshui asked this question, there was a look of anticipation in her eyes. She did say that Emperor Tianqin was seriously injured. When I went to the Tianqin dynasty with her a while ago, Emperor Tianqin did not show up. The matter of him being injured should be true. Long Yu said in a low voice. He was not clear about Emperor Tianqin's situation, so he could only use what Yu Hanxin had said. What a pity! When the Princess of Ruoshui heard this, she shook her head with some regret. Emperor Tianqin is extremely arrogant. During the last Martial God Conference, he actually had ill intentions towards my sister. I really want to see his death come soon. When Long Yu and Shu-chan heard this, they immediately understood the purpose of the Princess of Ruoshui. It turned out that she was trying to find out about Emperor Tianqin's situation. She seemed to have a lot of hatred for Emperor Tianqin. The two of you have traveled a long way here. You should rest early. Come with me. The Princess of Ruoshui shook her head and temporarily put the matter of Emperor Tianqin aside. She then invited Long Yu and Shu-chan to Ruoshui Ice City. The two of them were looking for a place to stay, so of course they would not refuse. The place arranged by the Princess of Ruoshui was better than the place they could find on their own. Needless to say, the spiritual chi of heaven and earth was abundant. Most importantly, they would not be disturbed. Regardless of whether it was cultivating or comprehending, the greatest taboo for a martial cultivator was to be disturbed. So if they randomly found a place to stay in Ruoshui Ice City, they would not be able to cultivate in peace. For the current Long Yu, training was one aspect. The other aspect was to comprehend the ancient martial skill, 9 serene heavenly light, as soon as possible. Ruoshui Ice City, in the regional king's mansion. Long Yu occupied a room in the courtyard arranged by the Princess of Ruoshui. The sky was beginning to darken. He was prepared to spend the night trying to comprehend the 9 serene heavenly light. However, the place was not as peaceful as he had imagined. This courtyard of the regional king's mansion was a place used by the Ruoshui prefecture to receive important guests. Aside from Long Yu and Shu-chan, there were many other geniuses from all over the North Snow Empire, as well as aristocrats from other dynasties and empires. Compared to dynasties like the Tianqin Empire and North Snow Empire, empires were the true strongest forces in Shenwu world. The emperor of each empire was an Emperor Realm cultivator who had reached the peak of the Emperor Realm. Even Yu Hanxin couldn't do anything in front of an Emperor Realm cultivator. Before this, Long Yu had never come into contact with any of the empires in Shenwu world. But after arriving at the Ruoshui Palace, he found that the aristocrats and young geniuses from the empires all had their eyes on the top of their heads and were extremely arrogant. At this time, it was the day that the North Snow Empire's icy lotus fruit was about to ripen, so it attracted many young geniuses from the surrounding empires to come and bid for the icy lotus fruit. At the same time, they also heard that royal Princess Ruoshui was a peerless beauty, so they came to Ruoshui Prefecture before the auction for the icy lotus fruit started. They wanted to see her face, and if they really liked royal Princess Ruoshui, they even wanted to take her back to the Empire and make her their woman. As soon as Long Yu arrived at the regional king's mansion, the first thing he saw was such a scene. Quite a few young martial cultivators dressed in luxurious robes, and it was obvious that they had several desolate grade war weapons on them. They were currently arguing in the courtyard, saying that if they wanted Monarch Ruoshui to be their woman, they would have to give up on Monarch Ruoshui if they wanted the cold lotus fruit. Long Yu didn't pay any attention to them. In reality, these young cultivators were all much stronger than him. Even if they weren't, they were all peak 7th Thaumaturgy realm cultivators, and some of them had even reached the Emperor realm, just like the Tianqin Empire's 6th prince. Facing these arrogant people, even if Long Yu wanted to intervene, it would be useless. These were super geniuses from the surrounding enemy empires. Not only were they talented, but they also had cultivation resources that far surpassed normal people, as well as powerful backers. Not to mention Long Yu, even royal Princess Ruoshui Yuhanshin, and the North Snow Emperor wouldn't dare to provoke these people. Long Yu didn't pay any attention to these people, and instead prepared to comprehend and cultivate his own martial skills. Chapter 599. At night, just as Long Yu was about to comprehend the 9 underworld heavenly light by himself, someone suddenly came to his room and knocked loudly on the door. Knock, knock, knock. What followed was a barbaric roar. Everyone inside, come out! The divine Luo Prince's bracelet is missing. Everyone, leave your room and search your body. The so-called prince was the son of an Emperor realm expert, just like how a prince was the son of an Emperor realm expert. The divine Luo Prince was the son of an Emperor realm expert from the divine Luo Empire. The divine Luo Empire was a powerful empire close to the Tianqin Empire and the North Snow Empire. One could imagine that the divine Luo Prince was an extremely respected existence in the North Snow Empire. No one dared to disobey his words. Even the subordinates of the divine Luo Prince were extremely arrogant in the North Snow Empire. No one dared to provoke them. Long Yu couldn't help but frown when he heard the voice of the person outside. The divine Luo Prince's bracelet was missing. Who knew where he threw it? How could he be so arrogant to ask everyone in the room to search their body? It was really speechless. However, the divine Luo Prince was powerful, and more importantly, he had the divine Luo Empire behind him. Long Yu had no choice but to stop his cultivation for now. With a creak, Long Yu opened the door and saw a subordinate of the divine Luo Prince with 7 divine realms. He was a middle-aged man in his 40s or 50s. He had a full beard and was looking at Long Yu expressionlessly. Take him away. The bearded man waved his hand, and a young martial cultivator behind him came forward. He was ordered to take Long Yu to the center of the courtyard for a body search. Then, the bearded man walked around the door of Long Yu's room. He didn't seem to find anything, so he closed the door and continued to knock on the door of the next room. What he didn't know was that before Long Yu opened the door, he had already condensed an ancient desolate shadow. He let the ancient desolate shadow open the door, while he himself used divine concealment to hide at the side, taking the opportunity to leave the room. No matter what, there was no way Long Yu would let anyone search his body. After all, the Void Nether Dragon Blade was an ancient combat weapon. Even the divine Luo Prince didn't have a combat weapon of this grade. If it was discovered, it might bring about a lot of trouble. Through his divine sense, Long Yu could easily control the desolate shadow. Unless someone destroyed the desolate shadow, no one would be able to discover that it wasn't Long Yu's real body. Since Long Yu allowed the primordial shadow to be searched, he would definitely behave himself and not give the divine Luo Prince any chance to make a move. Long Yu hid himself so that not even the 7 divinity realm cultivators could detect him. Now that he had entered the divinity's secret realm, his compatibility with the shadow attribute divine text had reached the 4th level. Even Emperor Path's secret realm martial cultivators might not be able to detect his presence. Long Yu came to the center of the courtyard. All the martial cultivators in the hundreds of rooms in the courtyard were called out by the divine Luo Prince's subordinates and gathered in the center of the courtyard. Not far from the crowd, there were a few people who stood out like cranes among chickens. One of them was the beautiful Duke Ruoshui in white. Beside Duke Ruoshui, there were 3 young men chatting and laughing. All of them looked like they wanted to win Duke Ruoshui's favor. One of these 3 young men was the divine Luo Prince who had initiated this search. The other 2 were actually at the same level as the divine Luo Prince. They were young geniuses from the surrounding empires. In terms of status, they were not much different from the divine Luo Prince. These 3 people were about the same age as Duke Ruoshui, and they were all Emperor Path Arcane Realm experts. However, each of them was definitely stronger than Duke Ruoshui. After all, they came from the Empire, and they had the support of powerful financial resources. To them, an ordinary great desolate level warrior was nothing special. The 3 young men were all handsome and elegant. One look and anyone could tell that they were dragons among men. In front of Duke Ruoshui, all of them behaved very elegantly. Unfortunately, Duke Ruoshui did not seem to have any special feelings for the 3 of them. She only smiled faintly at their flattery. After a while, even the young princess, Shu-chan, was brought to the center of the courtyard. She naturally had a reluctant expression on her face. Anyone who knew that they were going to be searched would not be very happy, not to mention that Shu-chan was a young girl. Is everyone here? A purple-robed young master standing next to Duke Ruoshui glanced at the crowd from the corner of his eyes and said arrogantly, I am the divine Civ Prince. I lost a bracelet in my room, so I will have to trouble everyone to cooperate with me. If the bracelet is not found, I will naturally let you go. Divine Luo Prince, there are many women here. It's not good to let your burly subordinates search all of them, right? Another young man in white robes smiled faintly. It was obvious that he was competing with the divine Luo Prince. Another young man in golden robes smiled disdainfully. If that's the case, I have a servant girl. Let her do the search. Is that okay? Not okay, not okay. The young man in white robes shook his head. Now that Miss Ruoshui is here, why don't we trouble Miss Ruoshui? I believe that Miss Ruoshui will seek justice for the divine Luo Prince. That's right. The young man in purple robes, who was the divine Luo Prince, nodded and said, Anyway, I prepared this great desolate level combat weapon as a gift for Miss Ruoshui. Since it is lost, why don't we let Miss Ruoshui do the search herself? From his point of view, a great desolate level combat weapon bracelet as a gift would definitely make a girl from a small place like Ruoshui go wild with joy. After all, the value of a great desolate level combat weapon was rather high in the North Snow Empire. However, what the divine Luo Prince didn't know was that Ruoshui didn't appreciate what he had done at all. It was only because of his identity as the divine Luo Prince that he reluctantly cooperated with him and comforted the other people living in the courtyard. It's just a mere bracelet. If it is lost, then it is lost. Why do you have to make things difficult for so many people? Ruoshui shook her head and said to the divine Luo Prince, Divine Luo Prince, Ruoshui has already felt your kindness. Now let's just say that I lost the bracelet. She really didn't want to see so many people being implicated because of her. In fact, who could steal the bracelet from the divine Luo Prince under his nose? This matter was obviously created by the divine Luo Prince to show off his strength in front of Ruoshui. How can I do that? Even in the divine Luo Empire, no one dares to offend the dignity of the divine Luo Prince. I didn't expect to lose a bracelet in the North Snow Empire. If news of this gets out, wouldn't I become a laughingstock? Where would I put my face? The divine Luo Prince's face darkened. he raised his hand and said, "Start searching. Lady Ruoshue, if you aren't going to search him, then let Prince Wuk's maidservant search him." Prince Wuk was the golden-robed man. He was also the son of an emperor-level expert from the Wuk Empire. "Then I'll do it myself." King Ruoshue shook his head, then lifted his foot and personally stepped onto the field. To Ruoshue, she had no choice but to do this. Her words were not convincing to the three princes of the empire. On the surface, the three princes seemed to be wooing her, but in reality, they were just putting on a show for others to see. To the three princes, if it wasn't for the face of the empire, they would have forcefully attacked Ruoshue long ago. After all, even if they did that, Ruoshue would have no way to seek redress. Even the North Snow Emperor didn't dare to offend these three princes. There were more than 100 martial cultivators in the courtyard. Those who could stay in this courtyard were of high status in the North Snow Empire. However, none of them dared to make a sound in the face of the three princes. Since they didn't have the bracelet, so what if they let them search them? To the three princes, they didn't have anything valuable on them anyway. Long Yu concealed himself and hid at the side. He discovered that with his level 4 compatibility with the shadow element, even the three princes, who were Emperor Path mystical realm experts, couldn't detect him. It wasn't easy to search the bodies of martial cultivators. After all, some martial cultivators had comprehended the space element divine text, so they could easily hide the items they obtained. Moreover, space weapons weren't rare at this level. Almost everyone had one. Apart from the owner's soul imprint, no one would be able to take out the items that were hidden in the space weapon. The Divine Luo Prince had asked everyone to erase the soul imprint of the space weapon first. Then, his subordinates would conduct the search. Such an action would cause great harm to the martial cultivators themselves. Long Yu hid at the side and observed the scene. When he saw that the Divine Luo Prince's subordinates in charge of the search seemed to be absent-minded, he couldn't help but have a thought. Could it be that the loss of the Divine Luo Prince's bracelet was completely fake? So, these subordinates were absent-minded and the search was just for show? But if that was the case, what was the Divine Luo Prince's motive? Very quickly, the body-searching subordinates arrived next to Long Yu's ancient desolate shadow. After a quick search, they didn't find any space weapons on him, nor did they find any bracelet. They directly bypassed Long Yu and searched for the next person. Long Yu heaved a sigh of relief. But soon, King Ruoshue was about to search Shuchan. It was impossible for the martial cultivators who were searched to not feel resentful. However, facing the three princes, they couldn't do anything even if they were resentful. They could only choose to obey. After all, these three young men were existences that even the North Snow Emperor didn't dare to offend. Of course, Shuchan was the same. She also had a space weapon. At this moment, she was hesitating whether she should erase the soul imprint on the space weapon. After all the other women who were searched had taken the initiative to erase their soul imprints and let King Ruoshue search them. Just as Shuchan was thinking about this, she suddenly felt someone reach out and pat her shoulder. But when she turned around, she didn't see anyone. Shuchan frowned slightly at first, but her eyes lit up as if she had thought of something. She released one of the bracelets from her spatial combat weapon. Sure enough, as she expected, the moment her space weapon bracelet was let go, it silently disappeared. Obviously, it was secretly taken away by Long Yu. If they didn't have a space weapon on them, they obviously didn't need to be searched, because before this, everyone's room had already been searched. To martial cultivators, space weapons were very personal items. It was impossible to even put them in the room. Since they didn't have it on them, it was most likely gone. Chapter 600. No one dared to complain about the Shenluo Divine Prince's actions. After all, the Shenluo Divine Prince was very powerful, and his backing was even more shocking. If they offended him, they would definitely not be able to live. Soon, the hundreds of martial cultivators were searched, but they didn't find any great desolate grade warrior bracelet. The purple-robed Shenluo divine prince glanced at the crowd. He was not angry and only smiled. However, everyone is very cooperative, which shows how much respect you have for me. I don't think you would do something like stealing the warrior bracelet. It seemed that this kid was quite satisfied with the crowd's reaction. Long Yu hid at the side, feeling a little confused. Could it be that the Shenluo divine prince did this just to test his prestige? That didn't make sense, Miss Ruoxue. I'm really sorry. I wanted to give you the great desolate level warrior bracelet, and I don't have anything else with me at the moment. Why don't you follow me back to the Shenluo Empire? There are countless treasures for you to choose from. How about that? The Shenluo divine prince turned to look at King Ruoxue and said with a passionate expression. King Ruoxue obviously expected him to make such a request. She only smiled and shook her head. Thank you for your kind intentions, Shenluo divine prince, but I have friends and family here, so it's not convenient for me to leave. Then, Miss Ruoxue, why don't you join us for the auction of the icy lotus fruit? It can be considered a welcome gift for us to come to the North Snow Empire. How about that? The white-robed man smiled. He was the Cloud's divine prince of the Cloud's Empire. He had a delicate appearance, and one could tell from his eyes that he was more reserved than the purple-robed Shenluo divine prince and the golden-robed Wuk divine prince. However, one could still tell that he liked King Ruoxue. Indeed, King Ruoxue's appearance and figure were flawless to any man. Even the Shenluo divine prince from the Shenluo Empire was infatuated with her, and hoped to bring her back to the Empire to be his woman. Originally, with their forces, it would be easy for them to get a woman. However, it was a pity that all three divine princes wanted King Ruoxue to be their woman, so it became a competition. Under such competition, none of the imperial princes could use force. Otherwise, the other two imperial princes would definitely stop them. Since that was the case, they could only rely on their own methods to conquer Ruoxue's heart. In the eyes of the divine Civ Crown Prince, as long as he showed his power and authority, he would be able to obtain the title easily. Moreover, his overall strength was indeed stronger than Crown Prince Wuk and Crown Prince Yunyun. The body search just now was the first step of the divine Luo Crown Prince's demonstration. The so-called loss of the bracelet was a complete fabrication. He just wanted Ruoxue King to know what kind of authority he had as the divine Civ Prince. It would be best if a blind fellow ran out and objected to the body search. Then, he would be able to use this as a pretext to make a fuss. Unfortunately, everyone present was very obedient, so he didn't know where to start. However, this didn't affect the divine Civ Crown Prince's display of power. Everyone obediently allowed themselves to be searched, which showed his authority. That's not a problem. The Ruoxue King had no choice but to agree to Prince Cloud's request and follow them to the auction of the icy lotus fruit. However, today's matter wasn't over yet. At this moment, the gazes of the three disciples landed on a young girl in a short black skirt. Their eyes were filled with displeasure. This young girl was Shu Chan. Shu Chan noticed that the gazes of the three imperial princes were focused on her, and their expressions weren't friendly at all. She couldn't help but wonder what was going on. Could it be that Long Yu had taken away her spatial combat weapon and was discovered by the three of them? This wasn't good. However, Shu Chan soon realized that the other party didn't notice this. The reason they were paying attention to her was because she had consumed the icy lotus fruit. I've felt this bone-chilling aura from my brother before. It's the aura of the icy lotus fruit. The divine Luo Crown Prince said faintly. This is also one of the main reasons why I asked everyone to come out today. I felt the aura of the icy lotus fruit in the courtyard, but I couldn't confirm who it was. I can only ask everyone to come out. I'm really sorry. Although he said he was sorry, his expression didn't show the slightest hint of apology. His display of power just now was just a casual action he had done for fun. But now, he was very serious about targeting Shu-chan. There was only one reason. Shu-chan had consumed the icy lotus fruit. Before I came here, I heard that there was only one icy lotus fruit left in the North Snow Empire for sale. You should know that there were only 3 left in the past years. I was wondering why there were so few this year. Turns out that someone else had eaten it. Prince Wu-Kei squinted his eyes and sized up Shu-chan carefully. He immediately pinned her with the crime of eating it. Long Yu was hiding at the side. When he heard Prince Wu-Kei's words, his heart skipped a beat. It seemed like these 3 princes wanted to cause trouble for Shu-chan. If it wasn't for the fact that Long Yu didn't choose to consume the icy lotus fruit, he would have become a thorn in their side. But even if it was only Shu-chan who was targeted, Long Yu couldn't just ignore it. Yu Hanshin told me that the North Snow Empire produces 5 icy lotus fruits every year. Long Yu squinted his eyes and thought about what Yu Hanshin had said. 3 of the fruits this year were given to him, Shu-chan and Emojietian. It could be considered that the North Snow Emperor had repaid the first Azura Duke's favor. Although Long Yu didn't want the icy lotus fruit, it was still taken away by Yu Hanshin. As for what she took it for, Long Yu had no way of knowing. It had nothing to do with him. Logically speaking, there should be 2 more fruits that could be taken out for auction. Prince Wu-Kei said that there was only 1 left this year. Could it be that the North Snow Emperor had also gotten rid of the other one? In the past, there were 5 fruits produced and 3 were auctioned. 2 of them must have been arranged by the North Snow Emperor. This year, it was given to Shu-chan, so there was less. This made the divine Luo Crown Prince and the others very unhappy. Everyone knew that rare things were more valuable. There was only 1 icy lotus fruit left in the auction. It was obvious that they would have to pay a huge price to get it. Even the 3 princes didn't have the confidence to win this auction. Even if they won, it would be a Pyrrhic victory. They would have to spend a lot more than usual. This made the 3 princes very unhappy. Therefore, when they felt the aura of the icy lotus fruit on Shu-chan, they jointly conducted a body search and successfully found Shu-chan. The icy lotus fruit had already been consumed. Of course, they couldn't do anything to Shu-chan. However, they could still find some information from Shu-chan. Queen Ruo Shui immediately became nervous and stood beside Shu-chan. At this moment, she felt a little guilty. If she hadn't acted on her own and arranged for Shu-chan and Long Yu to stay in this courtyard, she definitely wouldn't have encountered such a thing. Shu-chan's expression was very natural. She wasn't too nervous. Princes, this icy lotus fruit was personally bestowed by the North Snow Emperor. My ancestor is an old friend of the North Snow Emperor. Shu-chan said straightforwardly, "May I know why the 3 princes asked me to stay?" She was very clear that in front of the 3 princes, her identity as the Azura County Lord was not enough. Not to mention that she was no longer the Azura County Lord. Even the Azura Prefecture no longer existed. Although she looked calm on the surface, she was still a little nervous. After all, she was facing the princes of the Empire who were much stronger than her. The Shenluo prince wanted to ask her where the icy lotus fruit came from, but he didn't expect that Shu-chan had already confessed herself. She even refuted Prince Wu's accusation of eating it. The Shenluo prince was speechless. The white-robed Prince Yunduan smiled. "Young lady, what's your name? Don't be afraid. We don't have any ill intentions. We just want to know some things about the icy lotus fruit." "I'm Shu-chan." Shu-chan didn't hide anything. She answered directly, "Ask away. As long as I know, I will tell you. However, I don't know much about the icy lotus fruit." The icy lotus fruit is the most precious treasure in the world. Once consumed, there is a certain chance that one will be compatible with the ice attribute divine text. It is equivalent to a martial cultivator becoming compatible with 2 attributes, or even 3. The North Snow Empire only auctions 3 of such treasures every year. Even this year, there is only 1. It is really too little. The golden-robed Prince Wu stared at Shu-chan's eyes. However, under such circumstances, the North Snow Emperor still used the icy lotus fruit to repay a favor. This is really ridiculous. If it were me, why would I use such a precious icy lotus fruit to repay a favor? Any random desolate level weapon would be enough. Miss Shu-chan, am I right? This is the North Snow Emperor's decision. I have no way of influencing his thoughts. Shu-chan shook her head and pushed the blame onto the North Snow Emperor. You are right. The white-robed Prince Yunduan's voice was the softest. He looked at Shu-chan and smiled gently. Miss Shu-chan, this has nothing to do with you. However, since you have consumed the icy lotus fruit, you won't be able to digest it in a short period of time. It is very easy for others to sense the aura of the icy lotus fruit from your body. Right now, the auction of the icy lotus fruit is about to begin. If you don't want to cause trouble, you better think of a way. Yunduan, what are you saying? Could it be that you have taken a fancy to this little girl and want her to follow you? The Shenluo prince said disdainfully. Since you said so, I will admit it. Prince Yunduan wasn't angry. He smiled and said, This little girl looks quite cute to me. I quite like her. Since she has consumed the icy lotus fruit, she should be compatible with the two attribute divine text. Her future achievements will definitely not be low. Chapter 601. Shu-chan didn't expect that Prince Yunduan would take a fancy to her and want to take her as his maid. It was obvious that in order to be Prince Yunduan's maid, she would have to sleep with him. Shu-chan couldn't bring herself to do such a thing, no matter how noble Prince Yunduan was. I'm sorry, I have to stay here to avenge my father, so I can't leave for now. Shu-chan didn't even think about it and straightforwardly rejected the other party. Such a direct reply made Prince Yunduan's expression change into one of awkwardness. Prince Yunduan originally thought that as the son of an Emperor Realm Master, it would be easy for him to take a girl as his maid, especially one who was only at the mystical realm. He didn't expect Shu-chan to reject him like that. When the other girls heard Shu-chan's direct refusal, their faces were filled with envy and jealousy. This girl had such a good opportunity to accompany Prince Yunduan, but she didn't seize it. Instead, she rejected it. She really didn't know what was good for her. Prince Yunduan was the son of an Emperor Realm Master. His father was the Emperor of the Cloud Empire, the highest existence in the entire Shenwu world. A single word from an Emperor Realm Master could turn the world into a river of blood, wither thousands of bones with a single thought, level the seas with a single slash, and control the fate of billions of lives. Being able to become Prince Yunduan's maid was equivalent to finding a shortcut to the peak of martial arts. For most people, they wouldn't give up such a shortcut. After all, they might only have this one chance in their lifetime, or they might not even have a chance like this. Shu-chan was given such a chance, but she rejected it directly. Not only did Shu-chan give up on a path of martial arts, but it also made Prince Yunduan lose face. Offending Prince Yunduan would cause a lot of trouble in the future. Haha, I didn't think that you would be rejected by someone when you wanted to take a maid. Ridiculous, ridiculous. Prince Shenluo laughed and patted Prince Yunduan's shoulder. A dignified prince is being looked down upon like this. I know you're not in a good mood, but if you want to vent, then do it. Do you think I'm like you, venting out everything? Royal Prince Yunduan's expression didn't look too good, but he didn't lose his temper in the face of the divine Luo Crown Prince's mockery. Instead, he calmed down and said softly, Since you have made up your mind, I will not force you. Goodbye. After losing face, Prince Cloud naturally wouldn't stay any longer. He turned around and left with a flick of his sleeve. His subordinates hurriedly followed him. Miss Ruoxue, I will also take my leave first. I hope that Miss Ruoxue will be punctual for tonight's banquet. The golden-robed Imperial Prince Wuk had a proud smile on his face as he smiled at King Ruoxue before turning to leave. The divine Luo Prince didn't stay for long. He looked at Shu-chan playfully before turning around and leaving with his subordinate. After the three martial monarchs' sons left, the crowd heaved a sigh of relief. Duke Ruoxue was the first to sigh and said apologetically, "Everyone, I'm really sorry. I didn't think that the three martial monarchs' sons would suddenly come and cause such a scene." Those who could stay in this courtyard were all distinguished guests of the Ruoxue region. For example, Long Yu and Shu Chan came from the North Snow Imperial City and had some connections with Yu Hanxin. These people were naturally unhappy that they were forcefully searched. However, they knew that this matter couldn't be blamed on Duke Ruoxue. They could only blame their own bad luck for running into the three martial monarchs' sons. "Forget it, we didn't lose anything anyway," many people casually said and then turned to leave. Even if they wanted to take revenge, they didn't know who to look for. Of course, they could only pretend that nothing happened. Look for Duke Ruoxue? They didn't want this to happen either. Look for the three martial monarchs' sons? They were simply tired of living. Only then would they dare to find trouble with the martial monarch's sons. After everyone left, Long Yu's desolate afterimage gestured to Shu Chan, asking her to leave with him. Shu Chan's heart skipped a beat, and she followed Long Yu's desolate ancient afterimage to the back courtyard where there were fewer people. Duke Ruoxue had originally wanted to apologize to the two of them, but there were too many people present. Before Duke Ruoxue could find the two of them had already disappeared. "Shu Chan, let's leave this place first. Let's go now." Long Yu's desolate afterimage brought Shu Chan to the back garden. His real body appeared and returned Shu Chan's spatial warrior bracelet to her as he said in a deep voice, "Leave now? In such a hurry?" Shu Chan was a little surprised. "Just now, when Martial Monarch Cloud left, I saw a flash of killing intent in his eyes. He must be unhappy because you rejected him. He might attack you. It's better if we don't stay and take the risk," Long Yu explained. "Killing intent." That's right, Long Yu saw a flash of killing intent in the eyes of the white-robed Martial Monarch Cloud. Although it was only a flash of killing intent, it couldn't escape Long Yu's sharp perception. This made Long Yu realize that Martial Monarch Cloud, who looked the most gentle among the three martial monarchs, was actually the most dangerous one. Shu Chan rejected Martial Monarch Cloud. Although Martial Monarch Cloud didn't dare to casually attack Shu Chan in front of the other two martial monarchs, no one would be able to stop him if he secretly made a move. In addition, Martial Monarch Cloud looked at Shu Chan with a playful expression before he left. This made Long Yu realize that Martial Monarch Cloud was not as gentle as he looked on the surface. "All right, I'll listen to you." When Shu Chan heard this, she didn't doubt him. She and Long Yu had gone through life and death situations together. They escaped from the Tianqin dynasty together and took control of the Azura ancient palace together. Shu Chan didn't doubt Long Yu at all. Since Long Yu said that there was danger, then there really was danger. In the next moment, Long Yu raised his hand, and the divine character hidden appeared. He used the technique of divine concealment, and brought Shu Chan along with him to hide themselves. After that, they directly soared into the sky and flew towards the south. Using the concealment technique with another person would make both of them invisible. However, the consequence of this was that Long Yu's flying speed was reduced by more than half. However, as long as no one could find them, it was only a matter of time before they left Ruoxue Prefecture. What the two of them didn't know was that as soon as they left Ruoxue Prefecture, a few masked mystical realm martial cultivators broke into Shu Chan's room. However, they discovered that she didn't return to her room at all. These masked martial cultivators even searched the entire courtyard and couldn't find any trace of Shu Chan. Only then did they know that she must have left earlier. When this news reached the ears of Martial Monarch Cloud, who was resting, it made him extremely angry. His eyes were almost on fire. How could Martial Monarch Cloud not be angry after what happened today? He had finally taken a fancy to a young girl and wanted to take her as his maid, but she rejected him. This was simply intolerable for Martial Monarch Cloud. However, in front of Duke Ruoshui and the other two martial monarchs, he didn't want to make a move. However, he didn't expect that Shu Chan would disappear in such a short time. Run? Where do you think you can run to? A cold light flashed in Martial Monarch Cloud's eyes. To deal with a small character like Shu Chan, he naturally couldn't be bothered to do it himself. He had subordinates that could be dispatched for this kind of task. The subordinates he brought from the North Snow Dynasty this time were a team of 100 people. Among them, there was an Emperor Realm Imperial Guard captain. Of course, this Imperial Guard captain was only responsible for his safety. He wouldn't listen to his orders to hunt down others. This was because this Imperial Guard captain was his father's subordinate, not his. In addition, there were 3 King Realm experts and 10 Seven Daos Mystical Realm experts. These were all Martial Monarch Cloud's subordinate. To track down Shu Chan's whereabouts and hunt down Shu Chan was a piece of cake. Under Martial Monarch Cloud's orders, 1 King Realm expert and 3 Seven Daos Mystical Realm martial cultivators set off before night had even fallen. They began to inquire about all kinds of information about Shu Chan. These 4 people's ability to hunt and kill was top-notch. Even in the territory of the North Snow Dynasty, it was a piece of cake for them to gather information and hunt down the enemies of a martial monarch. At this time, Long Yu and Shu Chan had already left the Ruoshui Prefectural Palace and took out the Azura Spirit Boat. The two of them quickly flew south on the Azura Spirit Boat. With the speed of the Azura Spirit Boat, it would take a few days to fly across the entire Ruoshui Prefecture. Because they were afraid that someone would chase after them, the two of them specially chose a place with few people. Once they encountered other people, they would immediately put away the Azura Spirit Boat and use the divine concealment technique to move forward quietly. Furthermore, before flying towards the south, the two of them deliberately flew towards the west where there were more people. In Long Yu's words, this was called misdirection. Shu Chan didn't have much experience in this kind of thing. However, she felt that the route Long Yu chose was somewhat reasonable. She felt that this brat Long Yu was really not simple. He actually knew so many escape techniques. 3 days later, the two of them successfully left the territory of Ruoshui Prefecture and stepped into a lush green forest. Once they reached this forest, it could be said that they had already stepped into the territory of the Tianqin dynasty. Long Yu and Shu Chan didn't know which prefectural palace this territory belonged to, but no matter what, it was best not to be discovered by the guards of the Tianqin dynasty. Although the Tianqin emperor was injured, he was still an unparalleled existence to Long Yu and Shu Chan. Once they encountered him, they would definitely die. Therefore, the two of them began to be even more careful when they entered the territory of the Tianqin dynasty. The dense forest was lush, and from time to time, some cheetah demon cultivators would jump out. Long Yu and Shu Chan used the divine concealment technique to quietly avoid them. However, what surprised the two of them was that the cheetah demon cultivators living in this dense forest actually had rather sharp senses. Even though the two of them used the divine concealment technique, they were almost discovered by these demon cultivators. It was extremely dangerous. Every demon cultivator race often has a specific talent. For example, these cheetah demon cultivators have very strong senses. This is their advantage over human martial arts cultivators. However, their cultivation methods are much weaker than human martial arts cultivators, especially at the beginning of the path of martial arts. Even the elixirs they take and the weapons they use are different from those used by human martial arts cultivators. Shu Chan explained to Long Yu, and Long Yu nodded. At this time, he thought of the little fox demon, Chihua. Although this kid was a handsome young man in human form, Long Yu still saw him as a little fox demon. He wondered what kind of special ability Chihua had. Before the two of them left, many martial arts cultivators in both the Heavenly Mandate Manor and the Shura Mansion expressed that they wanted to leave their manors and mansions to train. Perhaps the next time Long Yu returned to the North Snow Imperial Capital, The situation in the Heavenly Mandate Manor and the Shura Mansion would be completely different from before. However, the premise of all this was that Long Yu and Shu Chan could return to the North Snow Imperial capital alive. In the Tianqin dynasty, danger lurked everywhere. In addition, Prince Yun Duan had sent assassins to hunt the two of them down. Their journey together would be extremely difficult. However, this was the purpose of their training. Chapter 602. Long Yu and Shu Chan managed to avoid the cheetah demon cultivators and quickly left the dense forest. However, Long Yu had a feeling that someone was following them in the dark, but he couldn't pinpoint the exact location and identity of the other party, which made him extremely vigilant. Long Yu knew very well that he was in extreme danger at any time, and a little carelessness could cost him his life. There's a lake in front. Let's jump in. Long Yu quickly pointed to a lake in front of them and said to Shu Chan. Shu Chan frowned. Why are we jumping in? I feel that someone is following us. Let's jump in. If he continues to chase us, we won't be able to hide in the water. Long Yu whispered. Shu Chan was stunned for a moment, but then she nodded. She actually didn't notice that someone was following them. Was her perception really that bad compared to Long Yu's? The two of them approached the edge of the lake, and just as they were about to jump in, a black-robed figure suddenly appeared beside them. Princess, wait! The voice made the two of them stop jumping into the lake. They turned their heads and looked at the black-robed figure. Judging from his attire, he should be a disciple of the original Shura Prefecture's demonic shadow track. The reason why the demonic shadow track was called track and not sect was because the people of this sect came and went without a trace. They cultivated an extremely powerful concealment technique. A disciple of the demonic shadow track? Shu Chan stopped what she was doing and asked with a raised eyebrow, Why are you here? This is the princess subordinate, Long Yu, right? The Six Realms Fiend Tracking Sect disciple did not answer Shu Chan's question directly. Instead, he shifted his gaze to Long Yu and said with a hint of admiration, I heard that Long Yu defeated Tai Sun, a powerhouse in the Three Realms Divinity Realm, when he was only in the Tribulation Realm, shocking the entire Shura Prefecture. Today, I finally get to see him. Furthermore, he has already entered the Divinity's secret realm, so he must be even more powerful. In any case, Shu Chan and Long Yu were relieved to meet a disciple of shadow tracing in this place. Since he was a disciple of shadow tracing, he probably wouldn't be a threat to them. Soon, the two of them started talking with this Six Paths Divine Realm disciple. This person's name was Mo Yuan. He had been cultivating in the demonic shadow track for more than 50 years, and he had deep feelings for the sect. A while ago, when Emperor Tian Qin destroyed the demonic shadow track, Mo Yuan relied on his powerful concealment skills to escape from the sect. Then, he began to contact other disciples and prepare a plan for revenge. The sect master of the demonic shadow tracks, the Dark Shadow Monarch, had died near this forest in order to stop Emperor Tian Qin. Demon Abyss had personally come to investigate to see if the Dark Shadow Monarch was still alive. However, to his disappointment, he had only found a remnant of the Dark Shadow Monarch's will. In that consciousness, Dark Shadow Monarch had given Mo Yuan many instructions. First, he had to find the princess, Shu Chan, serve her as his master, and help Shu Chan revive Shura Prefecture. Second, he had to return to the Shadow Tracing Sect and retrieve the items in the sect's treasury for Shu Chan. Third, he had to retrieve the Shura Sacred Tree in Shura Valley. Fourth, he had to rescue General Hui Yuanbai, who was trapped in the Nightmare Mountain Range. Originally, Long Yu had been a little cautious and doubtful about Mo Yuan's words. However, after hearing the 4 detailed points, his doubts disappeared. If Mo Yuan had any ill intentions towards Shu Chan and him, there would have been no need for him to say all this. He had even told him the method to retrieve the Shura Sacred Tree. Without Dark Shadow Monarch's guidance, how could a mere 6 Daos Divinity Realm disciple know the method to retrieve the Shura Sacred Tree? One had to know that Dark Shadow Monarch was a demon that didn't care about anyone. If not for the Dragon Bone Pagoda, Long Yu would have died in its hands. In that case, let's return to Shura Prefecture first. Shu Chan quickly made her decision. The demonic shadow tracks, Azura Valley, and Nightmare Mountain Range were all on the way from the north to the south. Shu Chan definitely had to get her hands on the Shadow Tracing Sect's treasury. After all, there were many cultivation resources inside. Shu Chan even wanted to get her hands on the Shura Prefecture King's treasury in Shura Valley. However, it wasn't easy to get her hands on any treasury. The Shadow Tracing Sect's treasury was well hidden. Ordinary people wouldn't know about it. The people from the Tianqin dynasty definitely hadn't found it yet. However, Shura Valley's treasury and martial skill pagoda were extremely conspicuous places. They were probably already guarded by the people from the Tianqin dynasty. No matter what, she had to go back and take a look before making a decision. The Shadow Tracing Sect was Shu Chan's first destination. Princess, I'll be by your side. If there's any danger, I'll warn you in advance. If there's a battle, I'll appear to help. Mo Yuan said respectfully to Shu Chan, there's no need. Mo Yuan, hurry up and gather with the other Devil Tracing Sect members. Once Long Yu and I are done with these matters, we'll leave the Tianqin dynasty together and head to the North Snow Imperial capital. We'll have a stable foothold there and can develop for a period of time. Once I step into the Imperial Path Mystic Realm, I'll begin to revive the Shura Prefecture. Shu Chan displayed a strong aura and asked Mo Yuan to leave. She didn't want to have someone following behind her all the time. It wasn't a good feeling. Moreover, she wasn't 100% sure that Mo Yuan was sincere in helping her. If this guy had already pledged his allegiance to the Tianqin Emperor, wouldn't it be a bad thing to have him follow her? Yes, Princess. Mo Yuan believed Shu Chan's words without a doubt. He bowed and cupped his fists before disappearing in front of the two of them. Shu Chan and Long Yu each pondered for a while before looking at each other. Do we still want to jump into the lake? Shu Chan asked. Of course not. Long Yu smiled. The two of them continued on their way. They traveled through a desolate forest and needed to pass through 3 counties before they could reach the Shura county. Since they couldn't use the Shura spirit boat to fly, it would take them at least half a month to reach the 3 counties. However, they were here to gain experience, so they weren't in too much of a hurry. Long Yu was just a little nervous about the news of Huiyuanbai. This loyal old general probably didn't pledge his allegiance to the Tianqin dynasty and was now trapped in the Nightmare Mountains. He didn't know how his situation was. With just him and Shu Chan, it was useless to be anxious. They could only take it one step at a time and go to the Nightmare Mountains to take a look. We'll do the opposite of what Mo Yuan said. We'll first save General Hua, then return to the Shura Valley, and finally go to the Shadow Devil Tracks to find the treasury. Long Yu said to Shu Chan. Shu Chan agreed with his decision, because she was also a little suspicious of Mo Yuan. Fortunately, after leaving the lake, Long Yu didn't feel anyone following them, so he relaxed. The two of them ate and slept in the open as they advanced. Furthermore, they did not forget to cultivate. Long Yu's comprehension of the ancient martial technique, 9 Underworld Heavenly Light, had increased significantly. Although he had not succeeded in learning it yet, he was almost there. As for Shu Chan, she had been learning how to condense God chains recently. Her father, Shura King, had taught her this method long ago, so she didn't have to worry about not having a method. However, condensing God chains wasn't easy. Even if she had reached the 5th level of compatibility with the Shadow Attribute Divine Text, it was still very difficult to condense God chains. 10 days later, the two of them stepped into the territory of Liang Prefecture. Beyond Liang Prefecture was Shura Prefecture. Long Yu did not have a good impression of the Liang County. Back then, when he was in the Devil Nightmare Mountain Range, the two 7 Divine Power Realm experts of the Liang County appeared to help Deputy General Zhou Li and wanted to make a move against the great General Huo Yuanbai. Fortunately, Shura King had appeared in time. Otherwise, General Huo Yuanbai would have been in danger. Now, the Heavenly Mandate Manor and Shura Mansion in the North Snow Empire were forces that had just been established and were weak. If they could find Huo Yuanbai to guard them, it would be extremely good. Even in the North Snow Empire, a cultivator of the 7 divine realms would be considered an expert. Every bit of power counted. However, when they arrived in the territory of Liang Prefecture, the feeling of being followed emerged in Long Yu's heart again. This time, Long Yu's sense of danger was even stronger. Shu Chan, be careful of sneak attacks at any time. Let's find another lake and jump in. When faced with such a situation, Long Yu always thought of jumping into a lake. This was the best way to find and shake off the pursuers. Shu Chan was stunned when she heard that. She then nodded and said, "Let's go." There were naturally many lakes and rivers in Liang Prefecture. They could find one just by looking around. Soon, the two of them headed for a river under a waterfall. It seemed that they were going to jump in. At this moment, a strong gust of wind suddenly appeared behind the two of them, whistling towards them. "Kill them!" a middle-aged man shouted. Then, a 7-path divine tier cultivator appeared behind the two of them. At the same time, 4 to 5 ordinary divine tier cultivators appeared around the two of them, unleashing a torrential barrage of attacks at the two of them. Divine Concealment Flash. Long Yu was already prepared for a sneak attack. He immediately hugged Shu Chan and activated the Divine Concealment rune. Instantly, the two of them disappeared from everyone's sight. There were a total of 6 people who had ambushed them. One of them was a 7 Daos Divine Realm expert, while the other 5 were 3 Daos Divine Realm and 4 Daos Divine Realm experts. Under normal circumstances, it would be more than enough to deal with a 4 Daos Divine Realm Princess, Shu Chan, and a 1 Daos Divine Realm Long Yu. It was a pity that these people came from the Cloud Empire, and had never heard of Long Yu and Shu Chan naturally. They did not make any special preparations. When Long Yu and Shu Chan disappeared from their sight, their expressions changed. Even the middle-aged man in the white robe with the 7 divine realms realized that he could not find any trace of Long Yu and Shu Chan. The pursuers of the Cloud Empire had finally caught up. The middle-aged man in the white robe originally wanted to follow Long Yu and Shu Chan and wait for the others to gather before making a move. He did not expect the two of them to find a river and jump into it. He could not wait to make a move. Who knew if he would still be able to find any trace of them after they jumped into the river? Chapter 603. The 7 Divine Realm white-robed man came from the Cloud's empire called by Jiangguo. He looked rather mature and handsome, but there was a layer of darkness between his brows. He did not know the true strength of Long Yu and Shu Chan. He felt that it was more than enough for him to capture Shu Chan and kill Long Yu with 5 Divine Realm subordinate. Split up and search. Report back to me immediately if you find any clues. Bai Jiangguo ordered his 5 subordinates. The 5 Divine Realm experts did not pay much attention. They were only chasing a 4 Divine Realm lass and a 1 Divine Realm brat, so they did not pay much attention to them. Having come from the Cloud's Empire to the North Snow Empire, they already had the arrogance of being superior to others. At this moment, how could they have any vigilance? The 5 of them spread out in all directions and searched the forest, trying to find any traces of Long Yu and Shu Chan. This was exactly what Long Yu wanted. If these people did not split up, Long Yu wanted to leave with Shu Chan. After all, these people would not be able to find them. However, since they chose to split up, Long Yu would not be polite. That 4 Divine Realm guy, let's kill him first. Long Yu whispered to Shu Chan as he brought her to a spot not too far away from one of the 4 Divine Ability Realm martial practitioners that had strayed away from the group. This person looked around sloppily. There was no trace of nervousness in his eyes, as if he was taking a stroll in the wild, not knowing that danger had arrived. Soon, this person was more than 2 miles away from the others. Even if the others heard the commotion and rushed over, they would need at least a few breaths' time. This amount of time was more than enough for Long Yu and Shu Chan to kill this person. I'll confuse him first. Shu Chan, you're in charge of killing him. Long Yu ordered Shu Chan. He then formed a primordial shadow and sent it forward to execute the wild shadow slaughter. That person was the first to react. Seeing Long Yu's desolate primordial shadow flying towards him, he couldn't help but sneer. A mere transcendent realm brat dares to ambush me, your grandfather? Die. As soon as he finished speaking, he punched out with his fist, and it was accompanied by the rumbling of thunder and surging lightning. In the next moment, Long Yu's primordial afterimage was completely shattered, but at this moment, Shu Chan's petite figure appeared behind him. She raised her hand and the innate skill, Azura Extreme Ray, condensed into a pitch-black light beam that pierced through the man's chest. Level 5 Synchronization. That person's eyes were wide open, and he had died with a grievance. He hadn't expected that Shu Chan had already reached the 5th level of synchronization with the shadow attribute Divine Text. This was also the main reason why his lightning had been unable to block the Azura's absolute light. As the man fell, Long Yu raised his hand and the power of the solar flame laws scattered, burning the man's corpse to ashes. At the same time, he searched the man's body for all his valuables and stored them in his storage space. One had to admit that the martial cultivators from the Cloud Empire were indeed rich. Just this 4-Daos Divine Realm martial cultivator alone had 2 heaven-grade high-rank combat weapons, several heaven-grade medicinal pills, and dozens of earth-grade medicinal pills. However, most of these medicinal pills were used in battle to replenish Xian Qi, laws, divine runes, and so on. Not many of them were used to increase one's martial realm. This kind of medicinal pill was known as a combat medicinal pill. It was completely different from cultivation medicinal pills. It was consumed during battle, and there were even some medicinal pills that could temporarily increase the strength of a martial cultivator. Of course, there was no such medicinal pill in the possession of Long Yu. After that, Long Yu once again used spirit concealment and disappeared into the forest with Shu Chan. By the time the others arrived from the forest 2 miles away, they were long gone. They didn't even leave their corpses behind. The only thing that remained was the aura of the divine runes, letting others know that a battle had just taken place here. It was a 4-Daos and 3-Daos divine realm martial cultivators. They walked together and noticed the traces of battle. They were killed in an instant. The 3-Daos divine realm martial cultivators' expression changed. If even 4-Daos divine realm martial cultivators were killed in an instant, wouldn't he have no chance of surviving if he ran into those 2 fellows? Humph, they must have ambushed us. They're just 2 shameless scum. What's there to be afraid of? The 4-Daos divine realm martial cultivators harumphed and looked around, trying to find traces of Long Yu and Shu Chan. But how could they find Long Yu and Shu Chan when they were in spirit concealment? One should know that even Emperor Path Secret Realms cultivators couldn't find Long Yu when he was in spirit concealment, let alone these Divine Realm martial cultivators. Nether Dragon 9 explosions, 5th explosion, Dragon Heart Decree. Just as the 2 were on high alert, Long Yu's voice suddenly sounded. Then, a black shadow appeared behind the 2, followed by a dragon's roar, making the 3-Daos Divine Realm martial cultivators' hearts skip a beat. Die! The 4-Daos Divine Realm martial cultivators turned around and slashed with their swords. The swords were cold and sharp, instantly cutting down several trees behind them. Then, the swords moved like a ray of light, cutting the black shadow that appeared to ambush them in half. Unfortunately, after the black shadow was cut in half, it turned into a cloud of black mist and dissipated. Clearly, it was just an afterimage. This made the four Daos Divine Realm martial cultivators' expressions change slightly. Knowing that they had been tricked, they subconsciously used their defensive technique. Long swords danced, and the sword's light circled around them, forming a layer of sword's light barrier. However, in the next moment, Long Yu's nether dragon blade suddenly appeared, directly shattering the layer of sword's light barrier. Then, a black light beam, Shu Chan's innate mystique, Azura's absolute light, arrived, passing through the gap created by the nether dragon blade and colliding with the martial cultivator's waist. Shu Chan had long comprehended the Azura's absolute light to the sixth heaven, which was the peak of the middle three heavens. If she advanced one more step, it would become the strongest upper three heavens mystique. With such an attack, the four Daos Divine Realm martial cultivators who had the same cultivation as Shu Chan could not withstand it at all, and were killed on the spot. As for the three Daos Divine Realm martial cultivators, they were stunned by Long Yu's Dragon Heart decree for a breath's time. Then, Long Yu stabbed them with the nether dragon blade. Before they could react, their chests were pierced by Long Yu, shattering their heart meridians. The two of them worked together, and against the 3 or 4 Daos Divine Realm martial cultivators, it was a complete instant kill. Of course, Long Yu could only be considered as a support, while Shu Chan's innate mystique was just too strong. This medicinal pill is really useful. It can speed up the recovery rate of divine characters, allowing me to use the same innate mystique in a short period of time. As expected of someone from the Cloud Empire. Shu Chan's eyes lit up, and she continued to encourage Long Yu to search the bodies of the 2 dead martial cultivators for treasures. Soon, he found a few more heaven and earth-grade medicinal pills. As members of the Cloud Empire's guards, there was no shortage of recovery medicinal pills. Now, they were all given to Long Yu and Shu Chan. Shu Chan was able to use the Azura's absolute light a second time in a short period of time because of one of the medicinal pills. It could speed up the recovery rate of divine characters, and it could stimulate a martial cultivator's dantian, allowing them to use the innate mystique they had just used. This kind of medicinal pill could not be found in the original Shura prefecture, because it was very difficult to make. Even in places like the Tianqin dynasty and the North Snow dynasty, it was rare. Even if 1 or 2 appeared, the price would be exorbitant, and ordinary martial cultivators would not be able to afford it. However, to the martial cultivators of the Cloud Empire, especially the guards of Prince Cloud Empire, this kind of medicinal pill was just a common prescription. As usual, Long Yu and Shu Chan destroyed the corpses, looted their belongings, and went into concealment. If not for the medicinal pills, Long Yu would not be able to use concealment so freely. This was because there was still a limit to the usage of the concealment divine characters, and he could not maintain this state for a long period of time. But with these recovery medicinal pills, there was no need to worry about this problem. From the 3 martial cultivators of the Cloud Empire, Long Yu obtained a total of 12 of these medicinal pills. He used one to maintain his concealment, and Shu Chan tried one. Once again, she used the innate mystique, Azura's absolute light, and killed the second opponent with 4 divine abilities. 3 people were dead, and there were only 2 left. However, the remaining 2 seemed to be a little more astute and cautious. One of them was a 3 Divine Realm expert, while the other was a 4 Divine Realm expert. They carefully came to the place to investigate, and after exchanging glances, they turned around and left, heading in the direction of the leader, Bai Jianghua. Chase. Killing intent flashed in Long Yu's eyes. Bai Jianghua was still several miles away. If he chased after them now, he would definitely be able to kill the 2 before Bai Jianghua arrived. Shu Chan agreed with Long Yu's plan. She flew forward and used the innate mystique, Eyes of Azura. As a pair of eerie black eyes appeared in the air, they directly sucked the 2 martial cultivators away. This was the innate mystique that Shu Chan comprehended when she was in the 2 divine abilities realm, Eyes of Azura. The terrifying and strange Eyes of Azura was a completely spiritual attack. Once used, it could shock the opponent's soul, and suck the opponent's consciousness into the eyes. Kill! Shu Chan threw out a pitch-black plate that emitted an ancient aura. This was her great Desolate Realm mid-tier combat weapon, the Primordial Azura Compass. As soon as the Primordial Azura Compass appeared, the power of Azura Divine Runes burst out, forming countless rays of black light that trapped the two martial cultivators and continuously sucked away their energy. In just 3 breaths' time, the 3 and 4 divine abilities realm martial cultivators who had their consciousness sucked away by the Eyes of Azura had their Xian Qi sucked dry by the Primordial Azura Compass. Following that, the power of the Azura Divine Runes invaded their bodies, destroying all their meridians. It was Long Yu's first time seeing Shu Chan using this great Desolate Realm combat weapon. She must be trying to kill her opponents as fast as possible, so that she could fight against the remaining 7 divine abilities. Who said that when facing 7 divine abilities, Long Yu and Shu Chan would run away? After Shu Chan achieved level 5 synchronization with the Shadow Elemental Divine Runes, she had once fought against Mo Zhaitian, who was also a 7 divine abilities realm martial artist. The battle ended in a draw, which showed that Shu Chan's true strength was no weaker than an ordinary 7 divine abilities realm martial artist. Chapter 604. Since they dared to chase after him, they had to be prepared to be killed instead. However, it was clear that Bai Jianghua hadn't expected that the 7 divine ability realm martial cultivator from the Cloud's empire would pose a threat to him with just 2 low-level divine ability realm martial cultivators. Bai Jianghua quickly arrived at the scene of the battle based on the commotion just now. However, he only sensed a trace of divine symbol energy and did not see anyone. He was sure that his 2 subordinates were heading towards him just now, but they were nowhere to be seen. What had happened? Could it be that they were killed by those 2 brats? No, impossible, those 2 brats are only at the 1 and 4 divine realms. How could they have killed my subordinates? Bai Jianghua frowned, he could not figure it out. He walked forward in the dense forest while maintaining his vigilance at all times. Perhaps those 2 brats had an accomplice, which was why they were able to kill his subordinates one by one. But even if they have an accomplice, it can't be someone from the Emperor Path secret realm. Otherwise, why would they hide their heads and show their tails? Bai Jianghua was completely fearless. He was a martial cultivator from the Cloud's empire. He had countless treasures and pills with him. How could he not be a match for a martial cultivator from a small place like this? When he reached the middle of 2 huge trees, something unexpected happened. Long Yu and Shu Chan had been using their divine concealment technique, observing him from the side. Even though Bai Jianghua was fully focused on defending against sneak attacks, they still chose to make their move. Because Shu Chan was very confident that she would be able to win. Primordial Azura Compass. Shu Chan raised her hand, and the great Desolate Realm mid-tier combat weapon, the Primordial Azura Compass, shot out like a tornado. Countless rays of black light shot towards the 7 white-robed martial cultivators, trying to trap them and absorb their energy. However, the white-robed martial cultivator, Bai Jianghua, was already prepared for this. Sensing that someone was sneaking up on him, he immediately unleashed the divine symbol energy. A pen-shaped combat weapon appeared in his hand, emitting a blinding light that blocked the rays of light from the Primordial Azura Compass. This pen-shaped combat weapon was also a great Desolate Realm mid-tier combat weapon, and it was extremely compatible with the white-robed martial cultivator, no weaker than Shu Chan and the Primordial Azura Compass. After all, Shu Chan was still very young. Even counting from the time she was born, she had the Primordial Azura Compass longer than the white-robed martial cultivator. The power of the white radiant divine runes sprinkled out from the brush had a slight restraining effect on Shu Chan's Azura divine runes. However, Shu Chan didn't retreat. Even if she had to use the desolate Azura compass to restrain the power of her opponent's great desolate grade battle weapon, it was still a good thing. "Good fella, you dare to sneak up on me, your grandpa Bai? You must be dreaming." Bai Jiangwa coldly harumphed, but he did not plan to kill Shu Chan right away, because he felt that since Shu Chan and the other 4 martial cultivators dared to sneak up on him, they must have an accomplice in the dark, and it wasn't just a single martial cultivator. A martial cultivator at the primordial Azura realm could pose any threat to him. A martial cultivator at the primordial Azura realm? Bai Jiangwa did not put Long Yu in his eyes at all. All of his thoughts were on the unknown martial cultivator that was hiding in the dark. He needed to be on the lookout for an expert to sneak up on him, and that would be the time for him to unleash his skills. Against Shu Chan, he did not plan to use any skills. Innate skill, Eye of Azura. The Azura divine symbol energy in Shu Chan's body erupted, forming a pair of pitch-black eyes in the forest. The pupils were as frightening as Azura's, and a chilling aura enshrouded the entire forest. Bai Jiangwa felt his hair stand on end as the 2 eyes stared at him. Just as he was about to use a martial skill to knock the Eye of Azura away, he realized that he couldn't move at all. Azura Absolute Ray. The control of the Eye of Azura was top-notch. Without any preparation, even Bai Jiangwa, who was a 7 martial cultivator, couldn't move at all. Shu Chan then used her innate skill, Azura Absolute Ray. A pitch-black Azura light beam shot out and landed heavily on Bai Jiangwa's chest. Fortunately, Bai Jiangwa's cultivation was profound, and he broke through the control of the Eye of Azura as quickly as possible. Moreover, he used the Radiance Divine Symbol energy in his body to defend himself. A layer of Radiance barrier appeared before his chest, and it barely blocked the Azura Absolute Ray. However, the power of the Azura Divine Symbol wasn't limited to just that. Even though the Azura Absolute Ray was blocked, it still created a powerful impact that blasted Bai Jiangwa several meters away. Right at this moment, Long Yu made his move. 4 primordial figures attacked from all directions, and each of them executed 2 explosions of the Nether Dragon's 9 explosions. In other words, Bai Jiangwa suffered the first 8 explosions of Long Yu's Nether Dragon's 9 explosions at the same time. Dragon roars resounded incessantly and shook Bai Jiangwa's heart. Even though he was an expert at the 7 divine abilities realm, he was still affected by the dragon roars at this moment, and the 9th hell energy invaded his body. "Break!" Bai Jiangwa roared. Radiance divine symbol energy instantly erupted, and the netherworld aura that invaded his body was dispersed. After all, he was a 7 martial cultivator. Even though he was holding back, he wasn't someone that Long Yu could easily deal with. The Nether Dragon's 9 explosions and 8 consecutive explosions actually didn't cause any damage to Bai Jiangwa at all. He only had to spend some effort to deal with it. Blood Sacrificial Shadow Kill, Explode. However, Long Yu's final move was completely executed at this moment. The 4 primordial figures took advantage of the time when Bai Jiangwa was dispersing the netherworld aura in his body to approach Bai Jiangwa at the fastest speed possible. Then, each of them executed a perfect stage primordial shadow kill technique, Blood Sacrificial Shadow Kill. The primordial figures originally didn't have any blood in their bodies. However, when Long Yu formed the figures this time, he first added some of his own blood. Therefore, when he spat out 4 mouthfuls of blood, 4 small black and red figures were instantly formed, and they instantly shattered Bai Jiangwa's radiance barrier. The radiant divine rune barrier that Bai Jiangwa had hastily condensed had first withstood Shu Chan's Azura Absolute Light, and then it had been bombarded by Long Yu's 4 little black and red figures. Yet, it had directly shattered to pieces. One could imagine just how tyrannical this move of Long Yu's was. And this wasn't Long Yu's strongest level. The Nether Dragon Blade was still tightly grasped in Long Yu's hand. However, unless it was absolutely necessary, Long Yu's main body definitely wouldn't get close to Bai Jiangwa. Otherwise, Bai Jianghua could kill him with a casual wave of his hand. After all, Bai Jianghua's martial realm far exceeded his. What a surprise! A trace of blood flowed out from the corner of Bai Jianghua's mouth. His eyes flickered with anger. He truly didn't expect that he would be forced into such a sorry state by these two brats. In that case, these two brats could really kill his useless subordinate. Surprised? The corner of Shu Chan's lips curled up. She raised her hand, and 1,000 attribute stones flew out, forming a formation that surrounded Bai Jianghua. Bai Jianghua didn't have the slightest doubt. He immediately condensed the radiance energy in his hand, preparing to shatter these strange attribute stones. However, in the next moment, a strange illusory energy spread out from these attribute stones, enveloping Bai Jianghua within. Just like that, Bai Jianghua's entire person became dizzy, as if he had fallen into an illusory formation. Take this chance to kill him. Shu Quan called out to Long Yu and took the lead to activate the ancient Azura compass. Countless rays of black light shot out, bombarding Bai Jianghua's body that was surrounded by the attribute stones. Long Yu's heart moved. He raised his hand and released the Siphon Divine Runes. The 5-colored Siphon Divine Runes rushed out and covered Bai Jianghua's body. Even now, Long Yu didn't dare to approach Bai Jianghua. However, the power of the Siphon Divine Runes could also help Shu Quan. It took time to arrange the attribute stones. Long Yu's previous 4 desolate ancient shadows were to buy time for Shu Quan. In reality, when the Dreamland Stone took effect, Long Yu had already completed his mission. However, he couldn't watch Shu Quan fight alone. At this critical moment, he still condensed the Siphon Divine Runes to help. Against the ancient Azura compass's attack, Bai Jianghua didn't react at all. His eyes were blank, as if he had fallen into a dream. In the next moment, the ancient Azura compass's rays of black light pierced into Bai Jianghua's body like countless swords, turning him into a sieve. Done. Feeling Bai Jianghua's aura rapidly weakening, his heart breaking, and his life ending, Shu Quan breathed a sigh of relief. No wonder its auntie's help. Impressive. Long Yu was impressed. The attribute stones that Shu Quan took out were called Dreamland Stones. Now, Shu Chan's mother, Shu Ruoxian, was inside these stones. She was already an existence in the Imperial Path Arcane Realm. However, Shu Ruoxian was unable to leave these Dreamland Stones because her physical body no longer existed. Only her consciousness remained in the Dreamland Stones. Releasing the Dreamland Stones was Long Yu and Shu Chan's plan. As long as they had enough time to place the Dreamland Stones, everything would be easy to handle. If an Emperor Path Secret Realm expert were to make a move, it would be a piece of cake to make Bai Jianghua fall into a dream. Without any defense, so what if Bai Jianghua was a 7-path Arcane Realm warrior? Still defenseless, he was killed by Shu Quan in this battle. I've absorbed the soul seals of 6 people, including Bai Jianghua's soul seal. The power of the Nether Void Dragon Blade has increased by 3 times. Long Yu strolled to the side of Bai Jianghua's corpse and found a waste token on his body. The words "Cloud Clouds" Bai Jianghua were written on it, letting Long Yu know that this person came from the Cloud Clouds Empire and his name was Bai Jianghua. Not bad, including this pen. Shu Quan also walked up and grabbed the pen-shaped Great Desolate Realm combat weapon that was trying to escape. This thing had developed its own consciousness. Just now, it had also been enchanted by the Dreamland Stone. Now that it had recovered, it was trying to escape. Long Yu used the Nether Void Dragon Blade to erase the soul seal. This was something that Long Yu was very familiar with. Although it was a Great Desolate Realm combat weapon, erasing the soul seal of a dead person was a piece of cake. Chapter 605. After killing Bai Jianghua, the expert from the Clouds Empire, Long Yu and Shu Quan had not only obtained the mid-grade Great Desolate Realm pen-shaped combat weapon, but also more Heaven Realm healing pills, and even 2 Great Desolate Realm healing pills. Judging from the aura emitted by the 2 pills, as long as one didn't die, they would be able to quickly recover from all injuries. The effect was even better than Long Yu's self-healing divine rune, which he had comprehended 20% of. Unfortunately, there was a limit to how many healing pills one could consume. That was because the same healing pill was not only expensive, it didn't have the same obvious effect as the first one. The two healing pills were given to Long Yu and Shu Chan, while the mid-grade Great Desolate Realm pen-shaped combat weapon was put into the Void Spirit Dragon Blade's storage space by Long Yu. Other than that, there were also two high-grade Heaven Realm combat weapons, a pair of boots and a long whip. Long Yu had erased the soul imprint on the pair of boots and put them on. The Heaven Realm combat boots could double one's speed by activating its power. However, it would consume a large amount of Xian Qi. Unless it was compatible with the pair of boots, then it would be much more useful. For the time being, Long Yu could only use the pair of boots to save his life. If he used the boots together with his movement martial skill, the sudden burst of speed would be extremely terrifying. The two continued to move forward. Not long after, they left the dense forest and entered the territory of Liang County. When they reached the center of Liang County, it was a complete desert. It was impossible for ordinary martial cultivators to survive and cultivate here. However, it was not a problem for martial cultivators in Liang County who had comprehended fire attribute divine runes. It was even helpful for them to comprehend divine runes and divine abilities. Fighting in a desert like this, martial cultivators in Liang County would have an advantage. Therefore, there were very few martial cultivators in this place. Under such circumstances, Long Yu and Shu Chan had to be even more careful. Anyone who came here would be interrogated again and again. If they were caught by the people of Liang County, their whereabouts would be exposed. When they encountered other people, Long Yu would directly use the divine concealment technique, quietly evading with Shu Chan. Like this, there were no major problems along the way. It was just that constantly using the divine concealment technique made Long Yu quite tired, and he had to take several medicinal pills to recover the power of the divine characters. Luckily, the people from the Cloud Empire came to deliver the pills. Otherwise, it would take a lot of time to pass through Liang County. Shu Chan smiled and said, "Yes, but the people of the Cloud Empire probably won't let this matter go. Soon, other pursuers will catch up. We must be careful." Long Yu nodded. Shu Chan nodded in agreement. "We will reach Shura County in another 100 miles. I wonder what the situation is like in Shura County. If we take a detour and directly enter from the north, we might encounter some trouble." Long Yu pondered for a moment and said, "Yes, if Emperor Tian Qin guessed that we would return and set up a checkpoint in the north of Shura County, it won't be easy to sneak in. It's better to take a detour to the west. It will also be closer to the Nightmare Mountains." Shu Chan said, "If we can rescue General Huiyuanbai, our battle strength will be stronger, and we will have more assurance in doing things. I just don't know where he is now, and how is his situation," Long Yu said as he shook his head. "No matter what, let's go to the Nightmare Mountains first." Shu Chan was quite familiar with Shura County and its surrounding terrain. With the support of Long Yu's divine concealment technique, Shu Chan quickly found a detour and entered the original Shura County from the west. This direction was not far from the Devil Nightmare Mountain range. However, what surprised the two of them was that the Azura County was now filled with dense ghost chi, making it difficult for them to breathe. "This is the aura of the Ghost Evil County." Long Yu's expression changed, and even Shu Chan's expression darkened. The ghost chi of the Ghost Evil County was floating in the Shura County. Could it be that the Ghost Evil County was now under the control of the Ghost Evil County King? Could it be that all of Emperor Tian Qin's actions are being pushed by the Ghost Evil County King? Shu Chan's eyes flashed with hatred. Along the way, she hadn't seen any news about her father. It was as if the Shura King had died after the battle with Emperor Tian Qin, and there was no news of him at all. Shu Chan didn't dare to think too much. She could only prepare herself for her father's death, so she naturally hated the instigator of all this. Originally, Shu Chan thought that it was Emperor Tianqin who wanted to move against the Shura County, but now it seemed that after the Shura County was taken over by Emperor Tianqin, it was given to the ghost evil county king to manage. Even the entire Shura County was filled with dense ghost qi. It was not hard to imagine that all of this was being pushed by the ghost evil county king. The ghost evil county king had suffered at the hands of the Shura king, so it was very likely that he was thinking of a way to take revenge. He just needed to convince Emperor Tianqin to take action. For the ghost evil county king, this shouldn't be a difficult matter. As long as a large portion of the Nightmare Mountain's mineral production was given to Emperor Tianqin, the Emperor Tianqin would most likely agree. To Emperor Tianqin, it didn't matter who the county was. The key was to obtain the greatest benefits and obtain the majority of the cultivation resources. Only in this way could Emperor Tianqin control all the prefectures in the Tianqin dynasty and have them firmly under his control. Things are still uncertain. Let's continue forward. Long Yu comforted Shu Chan in a soft voice. Then, he pulled her along and continued forward. Soon, they reached the depths of Azura County. They were a little closer to the Devil Nightmare Mountain range. At this point, the surrounding ghost qi did not weaken. Instead, because they were closer to the ghost evil county, it became denser. The two of them passed by a small city and a few martial cultivator villages. With Long Yu's divine concealment technique, he obtained a lot of news. The most important news was that the Shura County had been renamed to the Nightmare Mining Area. Most importantly, this area was really given to the Ghost Evil County's ruler, the Ghost Evil King. This discovery made Shu Chan completely silent. After all, as a princess, she naturally did not feel good when she saw the prefecture palace that she was so familiar with being occupied by the Ghost Evil King, that sinister fellow. With our talent, sooner or later, we'll be able to take back all of this. Long Yu's eyes flickered as he said to Shu Chan, "The most important thing now is to find General Hua's location. When the time is right, we will leave this place and quickly accumulate our strength in the North Snow Empire." Shu Chan obviously knew this, but seeing the familiar Shura County filled with the aura of the Ghost Evil County, she still felt a bit sad. Along the way, many martial cultivators in the cities and villages expressed their resentment towards the Ghost Evil County's invasion. However, they couldn't do anything about it. After all, they were weak, so even if they had resentment, they couldn't vent it out. Therefore, the number of martial cultivators in the cities and villages decreased a lot. Most of them went to the neighboring counties. Even if they lived and cultivated in a place like the Liang County, it was still better than cultivating in a place like the Ghost Evil County. As a result, the number of martial cultivators in the Azura County was rapidly decreasing. Countless martial cultivators chose to leave the county and not return. Long Yu and Shu Chan continued to run, but they still couldn't see a single person. The Nightmare Mountain quickly appeared in front of the two. Here, the Qi in the Ghost Evil County was even denser, making it hard for people to breathe. Fortunately, Long Yu's 9 nether divine characters could completely suppress this Qi. He could casually condense some Qi to disperse it. On the way here, they heard that the Nightmare Mountain was now filled with people from the Ghost Evil County and the Tianqin dynasty. The martial cultivators of the Nightmare Legion in the Shura County had either surrendered to the Tianqin dynasty, died, or followed Hu Yuanbai to hide in the Nightmare Mountain. Therefore, as soon as he stepped into the Nightmare Mountain range, Long Yu immediately used the divine concealment technique to hide both himself and Shu Chan, before quietly entering. In the Nightmare Mountain, that was filled with endless Qi, there were indeed many martial cultivators from the Tianqin dynasty and the Ghost Evil County patrolling. After all, this was the biggest reason why the Tianqin dynasty attacked the Shura County. The Nightmare mining area was naturally guarded to prevent outsiders from entering. Unfortunately, after using the divine concealment method, Long Yu and Shu Chan's figures were completely hidden. Even the experts in the King Road secret realm might not be able to find them. Quietly, Long Yu heard a lot of news from the patrolling martial cultivators from the Tianqin dynasty and the Ghost Evil County. General Hua is trapped in the Death Valley. When Shu Chan heard this news, her expression changed slightly. The Death Valley? What kind of place is that? Hearing this, Long Yu frowned slightly. Just from the name, he knew that the Death Valley was not a good place. However, only by hiding in an extremely dangerous place could one survive until now. Otherwise, any expert in the King Road secret realm would be able to capture Hu Yuanbai and his group of defeated soldiers in one fell swoop. The Death Valley is one of the two great danger zones in the Nightmare Mountain. The other place is called the Azura Abyss. Shu Chan solemnly explained, the origin of the Shura County is from the Azura Abyss. It is said that the first Azura Prefecture king went to the Azura Abyss and obtained the Azura Divine Rune. From there, he comprehended the Azura Divine Rune. Later on, he stepped into the King Road secret realm and was given the title of Azura Prefecture by the Tianqin Emperor. The Azura Abyss. So that's how it was. The Azura Divine Rune was obtained from there. Long Yu was slightly enlightened and nodded to express his understanding. After the Azura Divine Rune was taken away by the ancestors, it became a danger zone. In recent years, it has become even more dangerous. Chapter 606. After listening to Shu Chan's words, Long Yu finally understood the origin of Azura Prefecture. However, even after saying so much, she still didn't tell him about Death Valley. Fortunately, Shu Chan didn't forget to introduce Death Valley. She continued, similar to Azura Abyss, Death Valley is filled with the power of divine runes of death. If ordinary martial cultivators step into it, they will be constantly eroded by the power of divine runes of death and eventually die. Since ancient times, it is said that very few people who entered Death Valley could come out. Those who did all became Emperor Realm or even Emperor Realm experts. Divine runes of death. Hearing this, Long Yu's expression turned cold. This thing seemed to be very powerful. If it was like the Azura Abyss, where the divine runes of death were hidden, then this trip to Death Valley might have some unexpected harvests. Unfortunately, Shu Chan didn't know much about Death Valley. The two could only go there first and see the situation before making a decision. Under the state of divine concealment, the two quickly went from the edge of Nightmare Mountain Range to the center of the mountain range. The gloomy and ghostly aura belonging to the martial cultivators of Ghost Evil Prefecture became thicker and thicker, but it was all blocked by the power of Long Yu's divine runes of Nine Nether. Fortunately, Shu Chan was quite familiar with this mountain range. Soon, the two were not far from Death Valley. However, the two faced a problem. Outside of Death Valley, there were many martial cultivators of Tianqin dynasty and Ghost Evil Prefecture. They seemed to have united to prevent Hu Yuanbai, who had entered Death Valley, from leaving. Long Yu and Shu Chan looked at each other and nodded. Although Death Valley was extremely dangerous, the two had many tricks up their sleeves. They could still try to enter. After all, entering Death Valley wasn't a guaranteed death. Throughout history, there were many people who came out and eventually reached the pinnacle of Emperor Realm. Outside of Death Valley, there was a dense forest everywhere. Many martial artists from the Tianqin dynasty patrolled the area, and there were also martial artists from the Ghost Evil County hiding in the dark. They were like death gods in the shadows, watching and not letting anyone get close to Death Valley. They also did not let the martial artists in Death Valley leave even half a step. Among the martial cultivators of the Tianqin dynasty, the strongest was only at the Seven Daos divinity realm. It seemed like the Tianqin emperor didn't care much about Hu Yuanbai. Otherwise, he would have directly sent an Emperor Path secret realm expert, and Hu Yuanbai might not have had the chance to run into Death Valley. I wonder how Huiyuanbai is doing in Death Valley. Long Yu and Shu Chan used the divine concealment technique and stealthily bypassed the many Tianqin dynasty martial artists before stepping into Death Valley. This was an extremely narrow entrance to a valley, or rather, the entrance to a cave. One could only step in from here, and it was impossible to fly in from the sky. After entering the cave, a wave of death aura hit them in the face, causing Long Yu and Shu Chan to shiver. This was the power of the divine runes of death. In Death Valley, the eerie ghost energy of the ghost evil county could not enter at all. Once it spread here, it would be dispersed by the power of the divine runes of death, unable to condense. Death Valley and Azura Abyss were located in the original Ghost Evil County and Azura County respectively. They were not close to each other, but they were one of the two great danger zones in the Devil Nightmare mountain range. First, they passed through a long and narrow cave that was dozens of miles away. In this distance, the two could feel the power of the divine runes of death becoming denser and denser, constantly corroding their bodies. If they did not deal with the power of the divine runes of death that invaded their bodies, once they corroded their organs, there would be no hope of saving them. But soon, Long Yu and Shu Chan found a solution. Shu Chan relied on her tyrannical martial arts realm and the Azura divine runes to resist the divine runes of death. According to the rate at which the divine runes within her were being consumed, she could resist for at least 4 hours. Now, she had many heaven-grade recovery pills on her, enough to increase this time to 24 hours. In other words, 1 day and 1 night. As for Long Yu, it was even simpler. The 9 nether divine runes had a natural restraining effect on the power of the divine runes of death. Long Yu had already formed the 9 nether tyrant body, so the power of the divine runes of death was unable to invade his body. As for the surface of his body, he only needed to cover it with a small amount of 9 nether divine runes to block the invasion of the divine runes of death. In comparison, Long Yu did not need to take any pills to last longer than Shu Chan in Death Valley. After passing through the dozens of mile-long and narrow cave, the two finally entered an open valley. The divine runes of death spread throughout the valley like a gray fog. What surprised Long Yu was that there were some plants growing on the ground, and they looked like medicinal herbs. It's actually the flower of death. Shu Chan was shocked by these things. Flower of death? What is that? Long Yu asked. The flower of death is an extremely rare medicinal herb. However, it doesn't have any effect on its own, and it is also extremely poisonous. Only the fruit of death that appears after the flower of death wilts is the best material to refine the antidote. Shu Chan explained, unfortunately, this patch of flower of death doesn't seem to have any signs of bearing fruit. As the Azura Countess, her knowledge was naturally not something Long Yu could compare with. Now that she had recognized the poisonous flower of death, the two of them naturally had to take a detour. The two of them could not feel the aura of any other martial cultivator. The aura of the divine runes of death was too strong, and it covered up all vitality. In the entire Death Valley, besides the colorful flower of death, there were no other plants. The aura of the divine runes of death spread, and the entire world seemed to be dead. Long Yu kept feeling the power of the divine runes of death in the valley, and he quickly discovered that the power of the divine runes of death seemed to have a source. It was constantly drifting and gathering from a direction. He told this discovery to Shu Chan, and Shu Chan said, "Then let's go and take a look." The two of them could still endure for a long time, so they were not afraid of the divine runes of death. They were just afraid that they would run into some unexpected danger. Moving towards the source of the divine runes of death, the two of them quickly saw only the gray power of the divine runes of death. Even the flower of death couldn't grow here. When they reached this place, the pressure on the two of them suddenly increased. Originally, Shu Chan could resist the divine runes of death for 2 hours. Now, she was afraid that she could only resist for the time of a cup of tea. Moreover, the closer they got to the front, the thicker the divine runes of death became. Suddenly, the two of them heard the roar of a wild beast. It came from the gray fog of death in front of them, and it was accompanied by the voices of many people. It seemed like a group of martial cultivators were being chased by a wild beast. It should be General Hua's people. Let's go take a look. Long Yu and Shu Chan glanced at each other, then nodded their heads. With extreme speed, they rushed forward. Very quickly, in the distance, they saw a gigantic silhouette that was 10 feet tall. It looked like an ape, and was currently roaring as it chased after the nearby martial cultivators. The martial cultivators that were running away were the original members of Azura Province's Nightmare Legion. There were more than 100 of them, but they were being chased by the black ape without any ability to resist. General Hua is there. Shu Chan's martial realm was higher, so her vision was clearer. She immediately saw Hua Yuanbai near the black ape. Long Yu followed her gaze and finally saw Hua Yuanbai, dressed in white, standing not far from the black ape's feet. He was using all kinds of methods to resist the ape's attack. Seeing Hua Yuanbai's sweaty face, it was obvious that he would not be able to hold on for much longer. Let's help. Although Long Yu and Shu Chan did not know what was going on in the dojo, they had no choice but to help. They dashed out and attacked the black ape at an extremely fast speed. The black ape seemed to be made of divine runes of death. In terms of strength, it might not be as strong as Hua Yuanbai, a 7-Daos divine realm expert. However, the area covered by the divine runes of death was the creature's natural cradle. If it fought here, its strength might be comparable to an Emperor Path secret realm expert. Eye of Azura. As soon as Shu Chan entered the dojo, she immediately used this innate divine ability. A pitch-black eye appeared above her head and looked at the black ape in the dojo. It's the princess is here. As soon as she made her move, the martial cultivators of the Nightmare Legion immediately shouted. Their voices were filled with surprise. Obviously, they did not expect that the princess would come to help in such a desperate situation. Although the princess's strength might not be comparable to General Hua Yuanbai's, Hua Yuanbai was already evenly matched with the black ape. With the addition of the princess, perhaps, this is the spirit of the divine runes, a spiritual creature formed by the divine runes. It's not wise to fight it in its territory. Let's lure it out of this area so that we can better deal with it, Shu Chan said to Hua Yuanbai as she made her move. Hua Yuanbai was in an extremely sorry state. He rolled backwards to avoid the black ape's attack and nodded. I know it's the spirit of the divine runes, but it won't leave this area. It's too difficult to lure it out. General Hua, what exactly happened here? Shu Chan continued to ask. With the appearance of the Eye of Azura, the black ape seemed to focus all its attention on the Eye of Azura. It roared angrily and attacked the Eye of Azura, giving Hua Yuanbai some time to catch his breath. The Tianqin dynasty has occupied Azura Prefecture, and our Nightmare Legion has been forced to surrender to the Tianqin dynasty. However, this old man was unwilling to surrender, so I escaped into Death Valley with my brothers. Hua Yuanbai laughed bitterly. We've been in Death Valley for a few days. Of the thousands of brothers I brought in, only less than 100 are left. The rest have all been corroded by the divine runes of death. Sitting and waiting for death is not our style, so we wanted to venture deeper to see what's inside. It was also at this time that we encountered the spiritual creature formed by the divine runes of death. The death ape was completely formed by the power of the divine runes of death. It did not have a martial realm, but in Death Valley where the divine runes of death spread, it could display strength that surpassed the Emperor Path secret realm. This was also the reason why Hua Yuanbai and the others could not fight back despite being chased. In the next moment, Long Yu also joined the battle. Chapter 607. Long Yu had come all the way from the narrow cave at the entrance of Death Valley. He had long discovered that the power of the netherworld divine characters could restrain the divine characters of death to a certain extent. However, he had never thought that the power of the netherworld divine characters of death would have such a strong killing effect on the pitch-black ape in front of him, because the pitch-black ape was neither a martial cultivator nor a demon cultivator. It had no martial arts realm. Therefore, its power completely depended on the power of the divine characters of death. When the divine characters of death encountered the netherworld divine characters, it immediately fell into a disadvantageous position. Long Yu used the power of the netherworld divine characters of death to condense the heavenly mandate divine light, which suddenly exploded on top of the pitch-black ape's head. In an instant, the pitch-black ape's body exploded. In just an instant, Long Yu scattered the pitch-black ape. This scene shocked Hui Yuanbai and the hundreds of subordinates of the Nightmare Legion. Even Shu Quan and Long Yu himself were stunned on the spot. Wasn't this too exaggerated? The pitch-black ape that chased after Hui Yuanbai, an expert of the Seven Paths Divine Realm, was scattered by Long Yu in just one move. No matter how they thought about it, it was unbelievable. However, it really happened in front of everyone, and they had no choice but to believe it. Just when everyone had just breathed a sigh of relief, the power of the divine characters of death suddenly condensed into a whirlwind, blowing everyone into the depths of Death Valley. This whirlwind of the power of the divine characters of death came very suddenly and was extremely violent. It seemed to have been formed after the pitch-black ape exploded. As strong as Hui Yuanbai, Shu Quan, and the others had no ability to resist, and were directly blown into the depths of Death Valley. Netherworld divine characters, break for me. Long Yu reacted immediately. When he knew that the power of his netherworld divine characters could greatly suppress the power of the divine characters of death, he knew that his ability to survive in this Death Valley was far stronger than others. 9 nether divine characters condensed all over his body, condensing into 4 ancient afterimages, each of which performed the Nether Dragon 9 explosions martial skill. The power of the endless 9 nether divine characters immediately condensed into 9 nether dragon phantoms, and accompanied by continuous dragon roars, they suddenly swept out. The power of the divine runes of death that came into contact with the 9 underworld's dragon's phantom was pushed back. However, the power of the divine runes of death suddenly condensed around Long Yu. It was still the same pitch-black ape from before. The giant ape, who was more than 10 feet tall, grabbed Long Yu and ran toward the depths of Death Valley. The entire Death Valley was stirred up by the spreading power of the 9 nether divine characters. All the power of the divine characters of death shrank back into the depths of the Death Valley. Before long, Shu Quan, Hui Yuanbai, and the others stood in the empty place, looking at each other. What appeared in front of them was a huge valley without the power of the divine characters of death. The valley was barren, and there were almost no weeds. The flowers of death that occasionally appeared had rapidly withered due to the disappearance of the power of the divine characters of death. In the center of the entire valley, there was a pitch-black entrance to an underground cave. Just now, Long Yu had been grabbed by the pitch-black ape and directly brought into this underground cave. The power of the divine characters of death in the entire valley had similarly shrunk and gathered in this underground cave. It could be seen that the source of the divine characters of death was in this underground cave. Shu Quan, Hui Yuanbai, and the hundreds of people of the Nightmare Corps had all been rescued. Unfortunately, Long Yu had been captured by the pitch-black ape. General Hua, we can't turn a blind eye to little brother Long being captured. In my opinion, we should directly barge into that cave and see what exactly is inside. One of the burly deputy generals of the Nightmare Corps said solemnly to Hui Yuanbai. Hui Yuanbai stroked his beard and frowned slightly. Now that the outside of Death Valley has been sealed by the people of the Tianqin dynasty and the Ghost Evil Prefecture, we can't get out anyway. It's a waste of time to stay here. Naturally, we have to enter the cave. However, you don't need to enter. This old man can go in alone. "General, how can we do that?" The Deputy General's expression changed drastically. "Why not?" Hui Yuanbai asked in a deep voice. "If there's any danger in the cave, even if you follow me, it might not be of any use. However, if there's no danger, I can go alone. Why do you need to take the risk with me?" "General Hua, I'll go with you." The little princess, Shu Chan, was naturally worried about Long Yu. Moreover, unlike Hui Yuanbai, she did not have hundreds of troops to worry about, so no one present could stop her from going forward. She only said one sentence to Hui Yuanbai and stepped forward. Soon, she reached the edge of the pitch-black underground cave. The entrance to the pitch-black underground cave was huge and circular. Standing beside it, Shu Chan looked like a green onion on a flatbread, inconspicuous. Shu Chan looked into the underground cave, but all she saw was darkness. She did not see anyone. Not to mention Long Yu and the pitch-black ape, she did not even sense a trace of the power of the divine rune of death. Hui Yuanbai immediately followed. After exchanging glances with Shu Chan, he jumped into the pitch-black underground cave and activated the power in his body to slowly float down. Not far away, hundreds of Nightmare Legion's martial cultivators wanted to follow them, but they were stopped by the strong Deputy General. Although the Deputy General was also worried about Hui Yuanbai's safety, Hui Yuanbai's order was a military order to him. Military orders could not be disobeyed. "General asked us to guard here, so we'll guard here. If the bastards from Tianqin Dynasty and Ghost Evil Prefecture dare to break in, we'll guard the cave entrance with our lives. Don't let them in," the strong Deputy General ordered sternly, causing the hundreds of Nightmare Legion's martial practitioners to stand up straight with solemn expressions. "Yes." Thus, no one followed Shu Chan and Hui Yuanbai into the pitch-black cave. It could be seen that Hui Yuanbai's prestige among the Nightmare Corps martial cultivators was extremely respected. But soon, they found it strange that Shu Chan and Hui Yuanbai had actually floated up from the pitch-black cave. Both of them did not look well. "This cave is just an underground cave. There are no other exits. I don't know where little brother Long has been taken to." Hui Yuanbai's expression was extremely unsightly. He had always admired Long Yu, and just now, he had astonishingly blown up the pitch-black ape. However, he did not expect such an unforeseen event to occur, causing Long Yu to disappear after being captured into the underground cave. Shu Chan's expression was also very bad. She had asked Long Yu to come out to train, but she did not expect such an accident to happen. At this moment, she felt very guilty. If she had known this would happen, she would not have come to Death Valley. Although he had seen Hui Yuanbai, he was trapped in Death Valley together with Hui Yuanbai, unable to leave. Not to mention Long Yu, who had been dragged into a mysterious cave by an ape formed from divine runes of death. Whether or not Long Yu would be able to come out of such a terrifying place was already an unknown. At this moment, Long Yu finally woke up from his coma. Before he opened his eyes, he felt that he had been completely surrounded by the power of the divine characters of death. He was surrounded by a strange and dense aura, which made him shudder. When he opened his eyes, he found himself in a valley formed by the power of the divine characters of death. This valley was not big. In fact, it was very small. Long Yu could touch the edge of the valley with just a few steps. Looking around, it was only a small place with a radius of less than 100 zhang. However, Long Yu did not know how he had arrived here. He only remembered that when he released the power of the divine characters of Nine Nether and blew up the pitch-black ape, a gust of death wind swept over and condensed into another pitch-black ape, which grabbed him and took him away. Subsequently, he lost consciousness. When he woke up, he was already in this place. "Welcome to Death Valley." An incomparably dense voice suddenly sounded in Long Yu's ears, causing Long Yu to jump in fright. Looking in the direction of the voice, Long Yu saw a figure in a gray robe appear in the center of this small valley. The gray figure looked extremely eerie, especially since it was only a phantom, which made people feel as if they had encountered a ghost. "Who are you?" Long Yu asked straightforwardly and cautiously. "This is Death Valley. Where did I come from?" You were just in the periphery of Death Valley. It was just that the power of the divine characters of death leaked out a little, which resulted in Death Valley. Now, you are in the real Death Valley, the gray figure said in a strange voice. Although his eyes could not be seen under the gray robe, Long Yu felt that this person was staring at him. The real Death Valley? Long Yu frowned slightly. It seemed that the place he and Shu Chan had just entered was only the periphery of Death Valley. That pitch-black ape was most likely just a spiritual body outside Death Valley, and its existence was specially to guard the real Death Valley. That kind of pitch-black ape would become stronger when facing strong opponents and weaker opponents. It was definitely not something that ordinary martial cultivators could deal with. Even if an expert from the Emperor Path Mystic Realm came, he might not necessarily be a match for the pitch-black ape. Moreover, if he wanted to come to the real Death Valley, he would probably need the help of that pitch-black ape. "What is your purpose for bringing me here?" Long Yu continued to ask. "Of course there is only one purpose, and that is to kill you." The gray figure smiled eerily, then raised his hand, and a wave of the power of the divine characters of death condensed in his hand. When Long Yu heard what the other party said, he could not help but feel puzzled. Did this guy bring him to the real Death Valley to kill him? But if he wanted to kill me, why didn't this person attack me when I was unconscious for so long? What was the reason? Moreover, the strangest thing was that Long Yu could not sense any information from this gray figure at all. He could not even sense his martial realm. Even if it was other Emperor Realm experts, such as Emperor Tianqin, Yuhanxin, etc., Long Yu could roughly guess their strength. But when facing the gray figure in front of him, Long Yu could not figure out the other party's martial realm at all. Someone who can exist in Death Valley is definitely not an ordinary person. Just from the fact that Death Valley has existed for hundreds of years, this person is definitely not simple. Chapter 608. Facing the incomparably mysterious gray-robed martial cultivator's shadow, Long Yu was on full alert. "Let's test it out first," Long Yu thought to himself as he charged toward the gray-robed figure with the void nether dragon blade in hand. He crossed the distance of several dozen meters in the blink of an eye. Then, the power of the rainbow-devouring runes spread out from his body and swept toward his opponent. The power of the rainbow-devouring runes could absorb the power of all divine runes and convert a part of it into Long Yu's own power. It was an excellent way to weaken an opponent. The gray-robed figure seemed to chuckle and raised his hand. A wave of the power of the divine runes of death condensed in his hand and blocked the attack of the rainbow-devouring runes. Whether it was the amount of power of the divine runes of death or the angle of the attack, it was impeccable. It had just cancelled out Long Yu's rainbow-devouring runes. This scene caused Long Yu to be extremely vigilant in his heart. None of his previous opponents had ever dealt with him in such a manner. His opponent's control over his power had almost reached the acme of perfection. As long as he had the ability to block the attack, he would not waste the slightest bit of power. This caused Long Yu to be vigilant, and at the same time, he was enlightened. When in battle, one's profound energy, laws, and divine runes were not inexhaustible. Therefore, one had to use them sparingly at all times and not waste any. Judging from the way the gray-robed figure fought, it was obvious that he was no weaker than an Emperor Realm or even a great Emperor Realm expert. However, Long Yu could not see through his opponent's martial realm. "It's my turn now." The gray-robed figure saw that Long Yu had become vigilant and laughed softly. He then took a step forward. Just this step seemed to cross an immeasurable distance. The power of the divine runes of death arrived in front of Long Yu in the next instant. The sudden appearance of the gray-robed figure caused Long Yu's heart to skip a beat. He used the dragon sparrow flash as fast as he could. Just as he stepped into the strange space and his body became translucent, the power of the divine runes of death passed through his body. If he had not used the dragon sparrow flash in time, he would have been corroded by the divine runes of death. Ancient shadow appear. Long Yu roared, directly condensing 4 ancient phantoms that scattered in all directions. Following which, he relied on the spatial power of the nether void dragon blade to teleport himself and one of the phantoms. Immediately afterward, Long Yu's main body and the 4 desolate ancient shadows turned around and attacked the gray-robed figure that was surrounded in the middle. They each executed the blood sacrifice shadow kill technique of the desolate ancient shadow kill. The small black-red figures carried boundless killing intent and instantly arrived in front of the gray-robed figure, wanting to attack his body. However, in the next moment, the gray-robed figure smirked. He raised his hand, and divine characters of death condensed in his hand, forming something similar to the sword of Samsara. Sword of Death. He brandished the sword with divine runes of death in his hand, shattering all of the blood sacrifice shadow kill that Long Yu had unleashed, leaving nothing behind. Meanwhile, Long Yu's heart sank to the bottom of the valley as he looked at the long sword formed with divine runes of death. Because this method was very similar to the method he used to condense the sword of Samsara. It was the awakening palm of Samsara martial skill. Even if it wasn't too far off. It was simply a long sword formed with divine runes of death. This caused Long Yu the same shock he felt when he saw the mysterious woman, Consort Yu, appear with his own eyes. This person is definitely not someone from Shinwu world. He must be related to the dragon of 9 underworld in some way. That was what Long Yu was thinking. But he didn't have the time to think about it, because the gray-robed figure wielded the sword of death and was already charging towards him. The aura of the divine runes of death filled the entire area, causing Long Yu to tremble uncontrollably. This was the true aura of death, several times more profound than the divine runes of 9 underworld that he had comprehended and the Azura divine runes that Shu Chan had comprehended. This was definitely an existence that had reached an extremely high level of compatibility with the divine runes of death. No, I can't retreat. Long Yu had originally wanted to temporarily avoid the attack. However, he clenched his teeth and decided to face his opponent head-on. Although his opponent's methods were extremely profound, his martial arts realm was not that high. If not, he would have long since killed Long Yu. There was only one way to defeat the gray-robed figure, and that was to weaken it to the limit and kill it in one strike. Dragon Roar Darkening Sky Snow, Realm of Huang Quan. Long Yu directly used these 2 domain martial skills, turning the entire valley into his domain. Following the dragon's roar, black snowflakes began to fall, the aura of Huang Quan began to spread. Long Yu's strength was further increased, while the gray-robed figure's power was suppressed by 10%. Right after that, Long Yu unleashed all of the divine runes on his body, forming a long dragon that roared like a dragon from 9 underworld. It completely wrapped around the gray-robed figure and began to absorb its power. The sword of Samsara also appeared in Long Yu's hand, and he began to brandish the sword chi of Samsara towards his opponent. Under Long Yu's various attacks, the gray-robed figure's strength was reduced by at least 30%, and this was the limit of what Long Yu could do now. 9 Underworld Explosions. Long Yu immediately used the 9 underworld explosions. The 4 ancient shadows each used the first 8 dragon explosions, and Long Yu alone used the last one, Heaven Underworld Explosion. The dragon's roar resounded throughout the valley, and as Long Yu's divine runes of 9 underworlds surged and boiled, the gray-robed figure in the center, who was being attacked, didn't panic at all. He just raised his hand and gradually gathered the power of the divine runes of death in his hand. Faced with Long Yu's continuous weakening and tyrannical bombardment of martial skills, this person didn't choose to defend, but to counterattack. As the power of the divine runes of death condensed, the aura of the divine runes of space also drifted out, and then the gray-robed figure disappeared and suddenly appeared behind Long Yu. Go! When Long Yu sensed the opponent's aura appear behind him, he immediately used the Nether Dragon Blade's divine runes of space to move to a nearby ancient shadow. Then, he saw that the ancient shadow that had swapped places with him was corroded by the power of the divine runes of death in the gray-robed figure's hand. With just the right amount of power, the ancient shadow lost the ability to fight. At this moment, the 9 underworld explosions finally finished condensing, and they landed on the head of the gray-robed figure. This time, something even more shocking to Long Yu happened. The power of the divine runes of death used an extremely mysterious structure to form a layer of crystal shield. Although it was only a thin layer, it managed to block all of Long Yu's attacks. Divine runes. Divine chains. Long Yu's pupils shrank as he looked at the opponent's manipulation of the power of the divine runes of death. He felt that it was a little similar to the condensation of divine chains, but it was clearly a higher-level technique. If it were an opponent at the same martial realm as Long Yu, they probably wouldn't be able to fight against Long Yu even if they used divine chains. However, this gray-robed figure had used a small amount of the power of the divine runes of death to block Long Yu's 9 underworld explosions. Moreover, he had used the 9 underworld explosions in tandem with the ancient shadow. Although the power of the 9 underworld explosions was lower than when he used it alone, the combined power was unfathomable. It was enough to instantly kill a 4-path divine ability realm expert. Even the Nether Dragon 9 underworld explosions, the final explosion of the 9 underworld explosions, condensed countless evil spirits and souls into a black ball of light. The power of this black ball of light was enough for Long Yu to heavily injure Tai Sun, who was at the 3-path divine ability realm, when he was at the heavenly tribulation realm. But now it was easily blocked by the crystal shield formed by the divine runes of death. In fact, it was even directly dissolved. You're exhausted so quickly? It looks like I've overestimated you. Seeing that Long Yu seemed to be exhausted, the gray-robed figure chuckled once more. This chuckle was like the sound of death that came from the yellow springs of hell. Following that, the power of the divine runes of death tightly enveloped Long Yu and the remaining 3 primordial ancient shadows. Kill! Long Yu suddenly let out a furious roar. Together with the 3 ancient shadows, he forcefully rushed towards the gray-robed figure. The gray-robed figure's usage of the divine runes of death was simply superb. Furthermore, he possessed an unparalleled speed that even Long Yu couldn't match. After all, he had comprehended some kind of spatial divine rune. It seemed impossible to defeat the gray-robed figure now. However, Long Yu still wanted to make one last attempt. How foolish of you to act so recklessly. The gray-robed figure smirked. The power of the divine runes of death rose from his body and gradually condensed into a dragon of death. With a flick of its tail, the dragon flung one of the ancient shadows away. Even more power of the divine runes of death condensed and descended, scattering the other 2 ancient shadows of Long Yu. As for Long Yu himself, the power of the divine runes of death also began to corrode him. Even the power of the divine runes of 9 underworlds in his body couldn't stop the corrosion of the divine runes of death. This was because the opponent's usage of the divine runes of death was too strong. However, Long Yu didn't retreat. Instead, he erupted with a terrifying speed and instantly appeared in front of the gray-robed figure, standing face-to-face with him at close range. Foolish! The gray-robed figure said indifferently. Then, he raised his hand. The power of the divine runes of death erupted and completely corroded Long Yu's body. However, at this moment, Long Yu held the void Nether Dragon Blade in his hand and directly used the soul explosion. Previously, when Long Yu was facing the pursuers of Prince Cloud, he absorbed the soul seals of 6 people, which increased the power of the void Nether Dragon Blade by more than 3 times. At this moment, when he used the soul explosion, the soul seals of these 6 people exploded. Long Yu didn't care about the soul explosion at close range. It would also cause great damage to himself. His top priority now was to eliminate the gray-robed figure. Otherwise, he would die without a doubt. In the next moment, the soul explosion exploded. Long Yu bore the brunt of it and was blasted dozens of feet away. He fell heavily into the valley. Coupled with the destruction of the divine runes of death in his body, he was in a very bad situation. If it weren't for the divine runes of 9 nether that had tempered his meridians and the divine runes of self-healing, he would have died by now. However, the gray-robed figure didn't seem to be in a good state either. He didn't expect Long Yu to use a killing move at such a close range. Long Yu didn't care that he would also be injured. This kind of mutual destruction was really out of the gray-robed figure's expectation. Chapter 609. At the same time that Long Yu suffered a heavy injury, the gray-robed figure was blasted apart by the soul explosion of the Void Dragon's blade, and it gradually collapsed. The healing divine markings started to play an enormous role, and it wasn't long before Long Yu stood up once more. His eyes carried vigilance as he glanced at the surroundings, yet he noticed that the energy of the deathly divine markings in the gorge had actually started to converge towards a single spot, and a gray-robed figure condensed into appearance once more at the spot where the energy of the deathly divine markings converged. However, this gray-robed figure wasn't a phantom this time, and it was like a material existence. Moreover, when it condensed into form this time, it practically absorbed the energy of the deathly divine markings in the entire Death Gorge. Not bad. Even though you've suffered a heavy injury, you're able to make me feel a trace of threat at any rate. You've passed. What's your name? The gray-robed figure smiled lightly as he asked Long Yu. Long Yu was instantly bewildered when he heard this question. What does he mean by I've passed? Moreover, why is he asking for my name now? Let me introduce myself first. I'm the death envoy of one of the 4 emissaries of the 9th Hell. Since you're from the 9th Hell tribe, you ought to have heard of my name, right? The gray-robed figure spoke indifferently. Long Yu's heart instantly shook when he heard this, and he knew that he'd encountered an existence related to the dragon of the 9th Hell. Could it be that the death envoy of one of the 4 emissaries of the 9th Hell is one of the 4 subordinates of the dragon of the 9th Hell? I'm very sorry, I'm not from the 9th Hell tribe. However, I was born with the dragon seal of the 9th Hell on my chest, so I know of the existence of the 9th Hell tribe. Long Yu spoke bluntly. He'd never heard of the 4 emissaries of the 9th Hell tribe, and if he were to pretend to be from the 9th Hell tribe, then the gray-robed figure would probably see through him. So he might as well speak truthfully. The gray-robed figure was slightly surprised when he heard Long Yu. Could it be that you were accidentally abandoned by the 9th Hell tribe? However, there are inherited memories within the dragon seal of the 9th Hell, so growing in the 9th Hell tribe doesn't affect your advancement in the martial Tao. The gray-robed figure went on to say a lot, and Long Yu finally understood that this death envoy, who claimed to be one of the 4 envoys of the 9 underworlds, was one of the 4 great subordinates of the dragon of the 9 underworlds. However, they died together with the dragon of the 9 underworld. The gray-robed figure that appeared in front of Long Yu now was only a spiritual projection of the death envoy after its death. It was the same existence as the first Azura Prefecture king in the Azura Ancient Palace. Of course, the Death Envoy's cultivation was much higher than the first Azura king's, so his remnant consciousness had been preserved in this world for tens of thousands of years. The 9 Abyss tribe is a martial cultivator tribe inherited from the Dragon of 9 Abyss, living in a space independent of Shen Wu world, not known to outsiders for generations, able to borrow the power of the Dragon of 9 Abyss from birth. Although the Dragon of 9 Underworld had fallen, due to its overwhelming cultivation, its power was not extinguished. The 9 Underworld tribe that obtained its inheritance became the strongest force in the entire Shen Wu world. Do you know what this Shen Wu world is? The gray-robed figure, the death envoy, asked Long Yu. Hearing that, Long Yu frowned. Shin Wu world, what kind of thing is it? I've never thought about that before. He really hadn't thought about that before. For example, when he was living on the Heavenly Mandate continent, he didn't think about what the Heavenly Mandate continent was either. Shin Wu world is only a small world of Geo Dragon Emperor. The corner of the Messenger of Death's lips curled up as he said, "You have just stepped into the mystery realm, but I'm sure you know that the Emperor Path Arcane Realm cultivators have inner worlds inside their bodies. However, these inner worlds are incomplete and incomplete. But when Emperor Path Secret Realm martial cultivators take a step further and step into a higher realm, they can turn this inner world into a real small world. After Geo Dragon Emperor fell, his small world still exists. This is the biggest difference between a small world and an inner world. This Shin Wu world is Geo Dragon Emperor's small world. In other words, right now we, as well as everyone you know, are only living in Geo Dragon Emperor's small world." As these words fell into Long Yu's ears, he was completely shocked. Shin Wu world is only a small world of Geo Dragon Emperor? If that's the case, then the beyond the sky, that Shin Wu world's martial cultivators speak of, is the real world. Of course, what I'm saying right now is too far away for you, so you don't need to mind it too much, the Death Envoy continued. In the past, quite a few Nine Serenities tribe martial cultivators came to Death Valley, but none of them were able to stop me, who was at the same realm as them. It seems that innate power isn't a good thing for martial cultivators. In the end, you need to be like you, to grow up in iron and blood, only then will your battle prowess be a bit stronger. Since you've defeated my projection, you have the qualifications to receive the true inheritance of Geo Dragon Emperor. Of course, the true inheritance of Geo Dragon Emperor requires the approval of all 4 Nine Serenities messengers, and right now, you've only received my approval. The Death Envoy chuckled. Near the Death Valley, there is an Azura abyss. The Azura Envoy was buried in that abyss. However, that guy seems to have died. Not even his remnant consciousness was left behind. There's actually a Shura envoy in the Shura Abyss, and he's also one of the 4 Nine Serenities messengers. Furthermore, from the Death Envoy's words, the Shura envoy seems to have been completely wiped out. This is probably the reason why the Azura Duke was able to obtain the Azura Divine runes from it. Alright, from now on, I, the Envoy of Death, will possess your battle weapon and guide you in your cultivation. Speaking of which, this ancient supreme-ranked battle weapon is of pretty good quality. Where did you get it from? The Death Envoy looked at the Nether Void Dragon Blade in Long Yu's hand and casually asked. I was just about to ask Senior. Long Yu slightly frowned and asked, "Does Senior know a girl called Consort Yu?" Consort Yu, the Death Envoy shook his head. I don't know her. It's been so many years since the fall of Geo Dragon Emperor, even I was in a state of nothingness for a period of time, so I can't remember at all. The consort you speak of should be the one who forged this combat weapon for you, right? That's right, it's her. She should be someone from beyond the heavens. Long Yu said, I don't know why she helped me. Could it be because of Geo Dragon Emperor? You don't need to think too much about this. Since she chose to help you, she won't do anything bad to you. When your martial realm reaches a certain level, you will eventually know the truth. The Death Envoy lightly said, Now, you can try to comprehend the divine runes of death. Comprehend the divine runes of death? Long Yu's heart moved. He looked at the Death Envoy with doubt. The divine rune of death is an ability that I, the Death Envoy, possess. In this true Death Valley, the divine rune of death is everywhere. Moreover, it is the power of the original divine rune that originates from the divine rune source. If you can comprehend it, it will be a power that belongs to you. The Death Envoy said. There's no hurry to comprehend the divine runes for now, Long Yu solemnly said. In the outside Death Valley, there are still many of my friends, Senior. Can you guarantee their safety? You mean, the thousands of people who tried to break into Death Valley? Hearing this, the Death Envoy contemptuously smiled. They tried to break into Death Valley, an unforgivable crime, but since you have spoken, then let them go. Don't worry, I have already used the divine runes of death to protect them, but if they want to come to this true Death Valley, they won't be able to do so, unless you can comprehend the divine runes of death. Then I, the Death Envoy, will be completely willing to follow you and listen to your orders. Hearing this, Long Yu, of course, knew that this was another test from the Death Envoy. Although he didn't know what the Death Envoy wanted to help him with, since it was like this, he couldn't miss this opportunity. Comprehending the divine runes of death would also be of great benefit to him. The divine runes of death is a kind of shadow attribute divine runes. If you can comprehend it and use it, you can directly cut off your opponent's vitality, killing them without leaving a trace. While speaking, the Death Envoy pointed out to Long Yu, if you want to comprehend the divine runes of death, you must first have a deep understanding of death. Boy, have you ever been in a state of near death? On second thought, Long Yu thought, when he transmigrated to this world, wasn't he in a state of near death? With regards to death, Long Yu could not be said to not have a deep understanding. If you have, comprehending the divine runes of death shouldn't be a problem. If not, then it will depend on your talent. Or, I can let you immerse yourself in a mental illusion of near death. Of course, if you can't endure it, then you will really die. The Death Envoy said with a hint of playfulness. If that's the case, then I naturally want to experience the state of near death. The corner of Long Yu's mouth curled up slightly, and he said fearlessly, How dare you? The Death Envoy clicked his tongue. If that's the case, then let's begin. Get ready. As soon as he finished speaking, the Death Envoy's figure in a grey robe suddenly moved, and countless divine runes of death shrouded Long Yu. Just as Long Yu was speaking with the Death Envoy in the Valley of Death, outside in the Valley of Death, Shu Chan and Hui Yuanbai were extremely anxious. Long Yu had been taken away by the Black Ape, and his whereabouts were unknown. The pitch-black cave in front of them was a straight path, and there was no other way forward. Behind them, the power of the divine runes of death gradually condensed, forming a thick layer of death fog barrier, completely sealing off their escape route. The strange thing was that the place where they were standing was not invaded by the divine runes of death. This situation, could it be that the power of the divine runes of death is protecting us from being killed by the enemies? Hui Yuanbai saw this and his expression changed slightly as he guessed. Shu Chan squinted her eyes and observed the trajectory of the divine runes of death around them. She slowly nodded and said, Maybe Long Yu had some fortuitous encounter. For the time being, we should not be in danger. Even if the Tianqin dynasty and Ghost Evil Prefecture martial cultivators outside barged in, they would not be able to find us, and would instead be corroded to death by the divine runes of death. Next, we should rest well and wait for Long Yu's news. Chapter 610. In Death Valley, Long Yu quickly began to comprehend the divine runes of death. According to the Death Envoy, the divine runes of death in Death Valley were the same as the divine rune source. If one could comprehend them, it would be the strongest divine rune power, similar to the 9 Nether Divine Rune and Siphon Divine Rune that Long Yu had already comprehended. The divine runes of death could control death to a certain extent. In a situation where the difference in strength wasn't too great, one could even use the divine runes of death to directly extract the vitality of the opponent, causing them to fall into a state of death. Of course, this required one to completely comprehend the divine runes of death and even use them to a superb degree. For example, the defensive method that the Death Envoy used just now was called a divine formation. The use of the power of the divine runes, from the initial pure use of the power of the divine runes to condensing it into innate supernatural powers, were only elementary methods. Above that was the method of condensing divine chains that could be learned after reaching the 5th level of compatibility with the divine runes. Long Yu had seen this method before. The Azura Duke, Emperor Tianqin, Yuhanqin, and others were all very familiar with the method of condensing divine chains. Even Shu Chan was trying to comprehend it, but she hadn't succeeded yet. The power of the divine runes was the most primitive and tyrannical power in the world. Of course, there were more than these methods. Above innate supernatural powers and divine chains, there was an even stronger method: divine formations. From innate supernatural powers to divine chains, and then to divine formations, it was a process of constantly improving the use of the divine runes. In terms of power, the power of divine chains was at least 10 times that of innate supernatural powers, and the power of divine formations was 10 times that of divine chains. In other words, if one could use divine formations, the power they could display was at least 100 times greater than using innate supernatural powers. Of course, it wasn't easy to learn the methods of divine formations. At the very least, the current Long Yu couldn't do it. He hadn't even reached the 5th level of compatibility with the divine runes, much less divine formations. In order to learn the methods of divine formations, one had to at least reach the 9th level of compatibility with the divine runes. This was also the highest degree of compatibility a martial cultivator could achieve with the divine runes. The Death Envoy said that even in the world where the Jiuyo Dragon Emperor lived, martial practitioners who could reach the 9th level of compatibility with the divine text were considered geniuses and were rarely seen. That's why divine formations, let alone a small Jiuyo Dragon Emperor world like Shen Wu world, even in the Beyond Heaven world, it's an extremely rare and powerful technique. Regardless of whether it was the God chains or the God arrays, they were not things that Long Yu needed to consider. The situation he was facing now was merely to comprehend the divine text of death. However, just this point alone was already extremely difficult. Unlike the 9 nether divine characters and the siphon divine characters, the power of these 2 divine characters was stored within the ancient dragon bone tower. Long Yu was compatible with the ancient dragon bone tower, so he was able to gradually comprehend these 2 powers. Of course, the prerequisite for this was that Long Yu had to be compatible with the shadow and life attribute divine runes. Although it was only at the 1st level of compatibility at the time, dual attribute compatibility was still relatively rare in the Shenwu world. But now, the divine text of death that Long Yu was facing was the same as comprehending it in the divine rune origin. It was extremely difficult. Even for a martial cultivator of the Beyond Heaven world, wanting to directly comprehend the divine text in the divine rune origin was extremely difficult. Compatibility with the attribute of the divine rune determined whether or not a martial cultivator could comprehend the divine rune. And the speed at which one comprehended the divine rune was related to the martial cultivator's talent, the degree of compatibility with the divine rune, and the nature of the power of the divine rune. The power of the divine rune in the divine rune origin was publicly recognized as the most difficult to comprehend. Even if one reached the 5th level of compatibility with the divine rune and could condense the god chains, it would still take at least 7 days to comprehend the first 10,000th of it. Under the Death Envoy's illusion of death, Long Yu had to experience the feeling of near death at least 10 times a day. There was pain, there was despair, there was struggle, there was every one of these feelings that were hard to forget. And this also deepened Long Yu's understanding of death. Although he had experienced death before crossing into this world, that was only a single experience. But now, under the Death Envoy's illusion of death, every time Long Yu experienced it, it was as if he was truly near death. This caused Long Yu's comprehension of the divine rune of death to deepen. Although he still hadn't successfully comprehended it, his progress was still gratifying. On the 7th day, Long Yu successfully mobilized a trace of the power of the divine rune of death in Death Valley, leaving the Death Envoy very satisfied. In just 7 days, you were able to comprehend 1/10,000th of the power of the divine rune of death. Your talent is quite good. The Death Envoy lightly said. However, 1/10,000th of the power of the Divine Rune of Death isn't anything at all. With your current degree of compatibility with the 4th level of the Umbra Attribute Divine Rune, I believe you will be able to comprehend 1/10,000th of the power of the Divine Rune of Death in a month. At that time, I will speak to you about other matters. 1 month. Long Yu's thoughts stirred. He thought that this was far too long. But in any case, Shu Chan, Hui Yuanbai, and the others weren't in any danger. Cultivating here was also cultivating, and no one would disturb him. The environment was quite good. Then let's cultivate for a month first. Long Yu nodded. The Death Envoy closed his eyes in satisfaction. The Death Envoy continued to add the illusion of death to Long Yu, deepening his comprehension of death. A month's time passed by quickly. In this 1 month, Long Yu experienced over 1,000 different feelings of death. His comprehension of the Divine Rune of Death had finally reached 1,000th of the power of the Divine Rune of Death. At this moment, Long Yu could already successfully use the Divine Rune of Death. He could feel that if he were to face a Transcendent Realm martial cultivator at the same level as him, he wouldn't need any fancy trick. He could directly use the Divine Rune of Death to kill his opponent. This was the power of the Divine Rune of Death, the most overbearing power of the world. In particular, the Divine Rune of Death that Long Yu had comprehended was equivalent to comprehending the 3rd level of the Divine Rune origin. It was the strongest level of Divine Rune power. Although Long Yu only needed to comprehend 1/10th of the power of the Divine Rune of Death to be able to use it to condense his innate transcendent powers, it was impossible for Long Yu to spend a year in Death Valley to comprehend the power of the Divine Rune. Even if Long Yu wanted to do so, the Death Envoy wouldn't allow it. When Jiuyo Dragon Emperor was alive, he had over 3,000 disciples, and he never approved of any disciple cultivating in seclusion. The Death Envoy said, "There is no other way to improve one's combat strength other than through battles. Only by experiencing enough battles can one emerge from a sea of blood and a mountain of corpses and become an expert of a generation. Therefore, from now on, I will bring Death Valley with me and follow you to train. You don't need to have any expectations of me. No matter what danger you encounter, I will not appear to save you. However, when you need to comprehend the Divine Rune of Death, I will appear by your side." Bring Death Valley with me? Long Yu was startled when he heard this. He subconsciously looked around. Could it be that he could take away Death Valley? You can easily do that with that top-ranked ancient weapon in your hand. However, as the Death Envoy, I will naturally not rely on a junior's belongings. The Death Envoy laughed softly. He raised his hands under his gray robe, and the whole Death Valley began to shake. The power of the Divine Rune of Death began to gather in his body. Long Yu staggered and subconsciously urged the Xian Qi in his body to make himself float in the air. At a glance, he saw that the whole Death Valley was floating along with him. "Go!" the Death Envoy scolded. Long Yu felt his vision blurred, and the next moment, he appeared in another place. He glanced around and found that he was in a huge underground cave. He instantly understood that he was now under Shu Chan and Hui Yuanbai. However, this underground cave was probably thousands of feet deep, and with his current cultivation, it was impossible for him to break through. The next moment, the underground cave shook violently, and a huge palace with an incomparably gloomy aura of death rose from the ground. Oh right, the ancient palace. Seeing this, Long Yu's eyes suddenly lit up, as if he remembered something. Since the Shura province originated from the Shura Abyss, and the Shura Abyss was also the burial place of the Shura Envoy, one of the 9 nether envoys under the Jiuyo Dragon Emperor, then the ancient Azura Palace should be the Shura Envoy's possession, but it had been moved away. Now, it was normal for the Death Envoy to have his own ancient palace. Moreover, the Death Envoy and the ancient Death Palace had reached the highest realm, and it could be said that he could use all the functions of the ancient Death Palace, including extreme concealment. In just a blink of an eye, the huge ancient death palace in front of Long Yu, the gloomy palace that occupied his entire field of vision, disappeared just like that, as if it had never been there, or as if what Long Yu saw just now was a complete illusion. This ancient palace can actually become invisible. Then, if I am completely compatible with the ancient Azura Palace, Long Yu couldn't help but think to himself. The 9 nether envoys, every envoy has their own ancient palace. This is our residence, as well as our defensive weapons. These 4 ancient palaces were all personally crafted by the Geo-Dragon Emperor, and their functions are more or less the same. The Death Envoy's voice resounded in Long Yu's ears. If you are completely compatible with the ancient Azura Palace, of course you can also use it to hide your body, at least in this Shin Wu world. No one will be able to find a trace of the ancient palace. Now, I will always be by your side. Until you die, only then will I return to this place. Of course, there is another very small possibility. That is, when you have the strength to step out of this world, I will always be by your side. The Death Envoy's words caused Long Yu to feel a sense of nervousness. This Death Envoy follows him like this, but doesn't protect him. Could it be to keep an eye on him, Long Yu? The Death Envoy's strength is too tyrannical. Long Yu can't resist even if he wanted to, at least for now. He can only let the Death Envoy follow him. If you keep going forward from here, you will reach the core area of the Azura Abyss. There, you can try to comprehend the Azura Divine Rune Source. If you succeed, it will be a decent boost to your strength. The Death Envoy continued to speak, and then Long Yu saw that in this several thousand feet underground, there really was an ancient passage that extended into the distance. You're tuning in to the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.